I protected my best friend from her own jealousy, for years hid my promotions, cropped my photos, downplayed every single win, and she repaid me by feeding my deepest secrets to a guy at my job so he could humiliate me at work. My lifelong best friend Richie spent years pretending to love me while slowly poisoning every corner of my life. And when she finally latched onto my cousin Darren and built an entire fake identity to trap him into marriage, I had to decide whether loyalty to her was worth watching my own family get destroyed. I chose the truth, and she has not stopped messaging me since. I'm 23 female, and I've known Richie since we were kids. Darren is my 28-year-old cousin who was ready to propose. Jill is the smug guy at my office who became Richie's little informant. And my mom is the only person who told me to stay calm, advice I eventually stopped taking. Richie and I grew up 3 houses apart on the same dead-end street. We shared a desk in 2nd grade, got our first periods the same summer, cried together the night her dad left. She was the person I called before I called my mom. That kind of history doesn't just disappear, it calcifies. It becomes a thing you protect at all costs, even when the cost is yourself. The crack started in college. We went to different schools, mine was out of state, hers was local, and the distance did something to her I didn't fully understand until much later. Every time I'd call and mention a party, a road trip, a professor who liked my work, the line would go quiet for half a second too long before she'd say, "Must be nice." I learned to edit myself. I stopped mentioning the dean's list. I cropped group photos so she wouldn't see the restaurant backgrounds. When I landed a paid internship junior year, I told her it was just filing stuff. I thought I was being kind. I was building a cage. After graduation, I moved back home and got hired at a mid-sized marketing firm downtown. Good salary, real benefits, the kind of job that makes your relatives nod with approval at Thanksgiving. Richie was working part-time at a retail store and taking online classes she kept dropping. I never brought up the gap. Not once. But social media doesn't care about your boundaries. A colleague tagged me in a photo from a team lunch at this upscale Italian place the company took us to after we closed a big account. I was in a blazer holding a glass of wine, laughing at something someone said off camera. It was nothing. It was everything. Richie's text came 40 minutes later. Times, wow, look at you living the corporate dream, LOL asterisk. I typed back something deflective, times it was just a work thing. The pasta was mid, honestly, times, but the energy had already shifted. The next time we hung out, she made a comment about my new bag. Then my nails. Then the way I talk different now, like you think you're better. Each one delivered with a smile, a little laugh, plausible deniability baked in. I absorbed it. I minimized. I told myself she was going through a hard time. Then Jill happened. Jill worked 2 cubicles down from me. He was the kind of guy who collected information the way other people collected sneakers, not because he needed it, but because having it made him feel powerful. He had this habit of leaning against your desk with his arms crossed, smirking like he already knew the punchline to a joke you hadn't heard yet. I didn't know he and Richie had connected online until the morning he sidled up to my desk and said loud enough for 3 people to hear, "So, I heard you have a thing for older guys." Like times, significantly times older. My face went hot. My hands went still on the keyboard. What? Nothing. He held up his palms, grinning. Just something I heard. I had told exactly one person that. One. And I told her at 16, lying on her bedroom floor, trusting her with the kind of confession you only make when you believe someone will guard it with their life. It got worse. A week later, Jill made a comment in the break room about experimenting in high school while looking directly at me. A drunken kiss at a party when I was 17, sloppy, meaningless. Something I'd whispered to Richie in the dark because I was confused and scared, and she was supposed to be safe. She'd given him everything. Every vulnerable, unguarded thing I'd ever handed her. I drove to her house that evening. Didn't call first. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel, and I kept rehearsing what I'd say calm, measured the way my mom would want me to handle it. That lasted about 90 seconds after she opened the door. "You told Jill about Marcus, about the kiss with Tanya. Are you serious, Richie?" "Oh my God, here we go." No, here we go. He's saying this stuff at my times job. Asterisk. People I work with every day. Maybe if you weren't so obsessed with your little corporate image. This isn't about image. These were times secrets, times I trusted you. She laughed. Actually, laughed. You trust me, you've been hiding your whole life from me for years. The lunches, the promotions, acting like you're still regular when you're out here living some. I hid those things times for times you. That's when her face changed. Something behind her eyes locked shut. You hid them because you think I'm pathetic, she said. You've always thought that. She said that I was labeling her to be jealous and insecure. I realized it was useless talking to her, and she was not going to understand anything. Our friendship was dead, and there was no point in trying to fix it. I said this and raced out of her house. When I was leaving, I saw her mom sitting in the living room, and it was evident she'd been listening to our conversation. If not all of it, she must have heard us yelling at each other, yet she didn't intervene. Even when she saw me leaving her house angrily and in tears, she didn't tell me anything. I'm sure if this happened at my house, my mom would have intervened and tried to pacify the situation between us. I went to my mom after that and told her everything. She asked me if she could talk to Richie about it. I said no because I knew it wouldn't matter. Mom squeezed my hand and said, "Then let it die quietly, baby. Don't give her more ammunition." I listened. For 3 months I listened. And then Richie started dating Darren. My Darren. My cousin who just made senior analyst. My cousin who talked about wanting a wife and kids by 30. My cousin who called me one Sunday afternoon and said, "Hey, I need to ask you something about Richie, and I need you to be completely honest with me." My throat closed. Because I already knew what he was going to ask. Darren didn't ease into it. That wasn't his style. He was the kind of man who read contracts line by line and asked the questions nobody wanted to hear at family dinners. So when he called me that Sunday, he didn't circle, he landed. Richie told me she's never been with anyone. Like times anyone, asterisk. She said I'd be her first everything. And I want to believe her, but something's not sitting right. I was standing in my kitchen holding a mug of tea that had gone cold 20 minutes ago. My reflection stared back at me from the microwave door mouth, tight eyes already calculating. "What made you ask me?" I said carefully. "Because you've known her since you were kids. And because last week she spent 45 minutes grilling me about my ex. Where she works, what she looks like, whether I still follow her on anything, and when I asked her the same kind of questions, she got offended. Said there was nothing to tell. That she'd been waiting for someone worth it." He paused. And then she cried. My jaw tightened. That was Richie's signature move, tears as a trapdoor. The moment you got too close to something real, she'd flood the room so you couldn't see the exit. "Darren, why does this matter to you? Like specifically, because I bought a ring last Tuesday." The mug slipped. I caught it against my hip tee sloshing over my fingers. I barely felt it. "You bought a Times ring asterisk. I'm not playing around out here. I'm 28, I want what I want. But I'm not building a life on a lie. So I need you to tell me the truth, even if it's ugly. Asterisk, especially times if it's ugly." I sat down. The chair scraped against the tile, and the sound felt too loud for the decision I was making. My mom's voice floated through my head, "Times let it die quietly, don't give her more ammunition times," and for a moment I almost listened. Almost swallowed it the way I'd been swallowing things for Richie since we were 16. But this was Darren. This was family. And Richie wasn't just hiding a number or softening a timeline, she'd constructed an entire person who didn't exist, and she was selling that person to a man who'd already bought the ring. "She's lying," I said, "about all of it." The silence on his end lasted 4 seconds. I counted. "Tell me." So I did. I told him about Kyle from her job at the movie theater, the guy she dated for 8 months, sophomore year of high school. About the college boyfriend she'd moved in with for a semester before he caught her going through his phone and put her stuff on the porch. About the string of situationships she'd narrate to me over FaceTime during college, each one ending in a blocked number and a story where she was never the problem. And then I opened my Google Drive. I'd kept everything not out of malice, but because I was a digital hoarder and Richie used to send me screenshots of conversations the way other people send memes. Flirty texts she wanted me to decode. Photos from dates she wanted me to rate. Evidence of a full, messy human romantic history that she'd apparently decided to erase the moment she met a man with a senior analyst title and a savings account. I sent Darren 6 screenshots. 2 photos. One video she'd posted to a private story 2 years ago dancing in some guy's kitchen at 2 a.m. Captioned, "Times wifey material at the axe right, asterisk." He didn't say anything for a long time. "Then, I appreciate you. I mean that." He hung up. What happened next, I got in pieces from Darren from my aunt from the aftermath that rippled through family group chats for weeks. Darren went to her apartment that night. He didn't yell. He didn't accuse. He simply asked her to tell him again one more time that she'd never been with anyone. She did. She looked him in the eyes and repeated the lie like it was scripture. Then he told her what he knew. She broke. Not the performative crying she'd perfected, this was different. Gasping, hyperventilating, mascara-streaked, ugly crying while grabbing at his arm. He removed her hand. He took the ring box off her nightstand. She'd been keeping it there, showing it to people already. He asked for the phone he'd bought her. She said she needed to transfer her photos first. He said no. Took it out of her hand, factory reset it in front of her, and walked out. My phone started buzzing at 1147 that night. Text after text, each one more unhinged than the last. Asterisk. You ruined my life. Asterisk. Asterisk. You've always been jealous of me and you know it. Asterisk. Asterisk. I hope you're happy, you evil witch. Asterisk. Asterisk. Darren was the only good thing I had, and you took him because you can't stand to see me win. Asterisk. Asterisk. You're gonna die alone and you deserve it. Asterisk. I read every single one. I felt my pulse in my fingertips, my breath steady, my chest oddly still. I waited for the guilt. I waited for the familiar knot to tighten in my stomach, the one that had kept me editing photos and downplaying promotions and swallowing insults with a smile for years. It didn't come. For the first time, the absence of guilt didn't feel like numbness. It felt like the floor under my feet finally being solid. I didn't respond. Not to any of it. I blocked her number at 12:03 a.m., plugged in my phone, and went to sleep. The next morning, I posted about my promotion. Full photo blazer office, view the whole thing. No cropping, no filter, no apology. The caption was, "Simple times, hard work looks good on me." Asterisk. Richie had spent years making me small enough to stand next to. And I'd let her because I thought shrinking was the same as loving. It wasn't. It was just disappearing slowly enough that nobody noticed, least of all me. She's still out there, 3 houses down, on the same dead-end street. I drive past it sometimes on my way to work. I don't slow down. I don't look. The history between us didn't disappear, she's right about that. But it stopped being something I protect. Some cages you build with kindness. And some truths you tell not to destroy someone, but to finally stop destroying yourself. wife slept with my stepdad to steal a mansion she thought he owned. Plot twist, my dead mother left that mansion to me, and the only reason my wife didn't know that is because I lied about it years ago. One stupid lie I told sent this woman crawling into a 60-year-old stranger's bed, destroying everything she had for a house she would have gotten for free just by being a decent human being. So let me break this down for you. I'm a 38-year-old guy just trying to grieve my mother in peace. My wife is Celia, also 38, and I thought I knew her until I really got to know her. Andrew is my stepdad, early 60s, a man I barely had 2 conversations with in my life. And then there's my boy Keith, my best friend, loyal to a fault but absolutely useless when it comes to technology. Now let me take you back to the day everything started unraveling. It was a Tuesday in March when I saw them. I wasn't supposed to be on that road. My usual route to the client site was under construction, so I took the detour through Millbrook, a nothing town 40 minutes from where we lived. There was a little roadside cafe with a green awning, the kind of place truckers stop at for bad coffee and decent pie, and I glanced over because I was looking for a gas station. That's when I saw Celia. She was sitting at a window booth leaning across the table, her hand resting on top of another hand. Not just resting, her fingers were interlocked with his. And she was laughing. That full-body laugh she used to save for me, back when we were dating, the one where she tilts her head back and touches her collarbone. The man across from her was Andrew, my dead mother's husband. I pulled over so fast I nearly clipped a mailbox. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. I sat there for maybe 3 minutes, engine running, watching through the cafe window like I was watching a movie about someone else's life. Andrew reached over and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Celia leaned into it. I drove away before they could see me. Now let me give you context, because without it this makes no sense. My mother married Andrew about 6 years before she passed. I never understood the relationship. Andrew was quiet, unremarkable, the kind of man who fades into the wallpaper at his own birthday party. My mother was a force of nature, a single mom who worked 2 jobs, put me through school, and somehow inherited a sprawling mansion from her uncle that she maintained with sheer willpower and duct tape. When she married Andrew, I asked her once, "Mom, why him?" She just smiled and said, "He doesn't take up too much space, baby. Sometimes that's enough." I respected it. But I never bonded with Andrew. After Mom died, we exchanged maybe 3 texts. One was him asking if I wanted a box of her old books. The other 2 were holiday obligation. So the idea that my wife was sitting in a cafe 40 minutes from home holding this man's hand, it didn't compute. When Celia got home that evening, I was sitting on the couch pretending to watch ESPN. "How was your day?" I asked. "Boring. Errands. Target. You know." She dropped her purse on the counter without looking at me. "Where'd you go for lunch?" "Just grab something at home?" She didn't even flinch. That's what got me. Not the lie itself, the ease of it. Like she'd been rehearsing. I let it go. Sat on it for 2 weeks. Watched her. She started taking calls in the bathroom with the faucet running. She bought new underwear, the kind she hadn't worn for me in years. And then unprompted, she brought up Andrew at dinner. "You know, we should invite Andrew for Thanksgiving. He's probably lonely. Your mom would have wanted that." My fork stopped halfway to my mouth. "Andrew?" "Yes. He's family, technically. We've never invited him for anything." "Exactly. That's sad, don't you think?" I looked at her across the table and something cold settled at my chest. She held my gaze with this practiced softness, this manufactured compassion, and I realized I was looking at a stranger. "Sure," I said. "Let's invite Andrew." Thanksgiving was 6 weeks away. That gave me time. I told Celia I had a work trip the week of Thanksgiving, a conference in Denver that I absolutely could not miss. She protested for about 4 seconds before saying, "That's fine, I'll handle the dinner." Andrew shouldn't be alone on the holiday. I bet he shouldn't. I bought a GPS tracker and stuck it under her car. I called Keith. "I need you to do something for me, and I need you to not ask questions." "Brother, the last time you said that, I ended up in a canoe at 3 a.m. This is worse. I need you to go to my house on Thanksgiving. Celia's going to have Andrew over. I need you to walk in unannounced and record whatever you see. Silence. Then, you think she's... I don't think. I know. I just need proof. Keith showed up on Thanksgiving with his phone. God bless that man, he's been my ride or die since 7th grade, but technology is his kryptonite. He walked into my house using the spare key, heard noises from the bedroom, pushed the door open and saw them. Naked. Together. In my bed. He hit record. On himself. 37 seconds of Keith's horrified face in selfie mode audio, of him screaming, "Oh, what? And then the sound of him running into a wall on his way out. No footage of Celia, no footage of Andrew, just Keith's left nostril and the sound of chaos. But I didn't need the video. Keith called me hyperventilating, and the tremor in his voice told me everything. Brother, I saw it. I saw everything. I'm going to need therapy. That was my confirmation. I ghosted Celia for 3 days. Didn't answer calls, didn't respond to texts. Let her marinate in the silence. Then I contacted a divorce lawyer and had papers drawn up. When I finally sat down with Celia in the lawyer's conference room, she didn't cry. She didn't apologize. She leaned back in her chair and said something that made my lawyer's pen stop moving. I did it to protect us. Andrew inherited your mother's wealth. Do you see the complexities in this family dynamics? I stared at her. Someone had to secure that mansion, and you clearly weren't going to do it. So I did what I had to do. I was feeling dizzy with her BS, so I stormed out of the meeting room. I stood in the hallway with my hands on my knees, breathing like I'd sprinted a mile. She slept with him for the house. Not lust. Not loneliness. The mansion. After I came back, my lawyer asked for the details of the conversation. I told him everything. He cracked up for a moment, but he was interested in knowing about the inheritance my mother had left. Here's where it gets complicated, and where my one stupid lie comes back to haunt everyone. My mom had left a house that she had inherited from her uncle. It was a huge mansion, way beyond my means. Interestingly, Celia always had an eye on that mansion. After our marriage, she even insisted that we move into the mansion. I was happy that Celia wanted to move in with my mother, but no, Celia wanted my mom to move out to my apartment, and we took up her mansion. I denied it. It was her house. Why should she leave? Celia said. You're the only son of your mother. That house is going to be yours eventually. That sentence lived in my head for years. When Mom died, the will was clear. The mansion went to me. But I was so disgusted by how eager Celia had always been about that property that I told her it went to Andrew. A throwaway lie. A test, maybe. I wanted to see if she'd grieve my mother or grieve the house. She grieved the house. And apparently she did a lot more than grieve. Now Celia sat across from me in that conference room, smug arms crossed, believing she had leverage. Believing Andrew was her golden ticket. She leaned forward and said the words that made me want to laugh and scream at the same time. Think carefully about this divorce. You're losing a lot more than you realize. I looked at my lawyer. My lawyer looked at me. And for the first time in months, I smiled. I signed the papers that afternoon. My lawyer kept glancing at me like he was waiting for me to hesitate, to waver, to do the thing men do when they still love the woman sitting across the table. But I didn't love the woman sitting across the table. I loved the woman I thought she was 3 years ago, and that woman had never existed. Celia signed too, but she signed like someone humoring a child. Casual. Dismissive. She even smiled at me on her way out, this pitying little curve of her lips that said, "Times you'll regret this." Asterisk. The finalization took 4 weeks. 4 weeks of Celia texting me articles about conscious uncoupling and mature co-separation, as if she were the enlightened one and I was the fool stumbling away from paradise. She never once asked me to reconsider because she loved me. Every attempt was framed around what I was times losing. Asterisk. The day the divorce was finalized, I sat in my car in the courthouse parking lot and pulled out my phone. I stared at Andrew's contact for a long time. The last text between us was from 14 months ago, him asking if I wanted Mom's old books. I typed slowly. Asterisk, Andrew. I thought you should know. Celia didn't pursue you because she was attracted to you. She told me in front of my lawyer that she slept with you to secure my mother's mansion. She believed you inherited it. She was using you to get the house. I'm sorry you got caught up in this. Asterisk. I hit send. Then I added one more line. Asterisk. The mansion was never yours. Mom left it to me. Asterisk. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Then nothing. For 20 minutes, nothing. Finally, times I don't understand. Asterisk. Asterisk. She thought you owned the house. She was sleeping with you to get you to sign it over to her or marry her. That was the entire play. Asterisk. No response after that. Not for 2 hours. Then a single text times. She told me you didn't care about me. She said you'd never visit. She said she was the only family I had left. Asterisk. I put the phone down and pressed my palms into my eyes until I saw white. Andrew was 62 years old. A quiet man who didn't take up too much space. And Celia had walked into his loneliness like she was filling a void when really she was just measuring the square footage. That evening, I called Celia. She picked up on the first ring. Finally coming to your senses. I told Andrew. Silence. The kind of silence that has texture, thick, suffocating alive. Told him what? Everything. What you said in the conference room? That you slept with him for the mansion? That it was a transaction? You're lying. I also told him the mansion was never his. More silence. I could hear her breathing change, quicken the way someone breathes when the floor starts tilting. What do you mean it was never his? Mom left it to me, Celia. It was always mine. I told you it went to Andrew because I wanted to see what you'd do. And you showed me. The scream that came through the phone was not a word. It was a sound, guttural, raw, the noise a person makes when they realize they've burned down their own house and they're still standing inside it. Then the words came tumbling over each other. You lied to me. I degraded myself with that. Man, do you understand what I did? I let him, for nothing you, sat there and watched me. No. You sat there and chose. Nobody made you do anything. I did it for us. You did it for a building. She hung up. I sat in the silence of my apartment and felt something I hadn't felt in months. Not joy. Not satisfaction. Just the absence of weight. Like someone had been standing on my chest and finally stepped off. The aftermath was not clean. Celia showed up at my apartment the next morning at 6 a.m., mascara streaked. Still in the clothes from the night before. She pounded on the door until my neighbor threatened to call the police. When I opened it, she pushed past me and stood in my kitchen vibrating. We can fix this. I'll go to counseling. I'll do whatever. We're divorced, Celia. Papers don't mean... They mean exactly what they mean. She showed up at my office 2 days later, then my gym, then the coffee shop where I went every Saturday morning. Each time, the pitch changed. First, it was reconciliation. Then guilt times your mother would be ashamed of you. Asterisk. Then threats times, I'll tell everyone what kind of man lies to his own wife. Asterisk. Then back to pleading. I filed for a restraining order. Meanwhile, I transferred the mansion into my name, officially hired a contractor, and spent 3 months renovating it. New kitchen. Refinished hardwood. Fresh paint in the color my mother always wanted, but never got around to a warm sage green she'd circled in a magazine I found in her bedside drawer. I rented it to a young family. A couple with 2 kids and a golden retriever. The rent was double what my apartment cost. Every month that deposit hit my account like a quiet inheritance, my mother still providing, still taking care of me from wherever she was. Celia found out about the tenants. Of course she did. She drove to the mansion and knocked on the door, told the wife she was the owner's spouse and needed access to the property. The cleaning crew I'd hired happened to be there that day. They escorted her out. She stood on the lawn screaming at a house that was never hers, never going to be hers, a house she'd sold her dignity to claim. The restraining order was granted the following week. Last I heard, Andrew blocked her number. She moved in with her sister 2 towns over. No husband, no house, no stepdad, no scheme left to run. Sometimes I drive past the mansion on my way home from work. I slow down and look at the sage green walls, the trimmed hedges, the toys scattered on the porch. And I think about my mother, a single mom who worked 2 jobs, who held that house together with willpower and duct tape, who married a man because he didn't take up too much space. She left me everything she had. And the woman who married me for it ended up with nothing at all. Mama always did have the last word. She threw hot coffee in my face. And honestly, that's the moment I finally understood my marriage was over. Not the hotel receipts, not the cab rides to his apartment, not even finding his name saved in her phone with a little flower emoji next to it. It took third-degree burns to wake me up. But before we get to the coffee, let me back up. My wife filed for divorce behind my back, slapped me with a restraining order based on lies, kicked me out of my own house, and the whole time she was sleeping with the father of our son's best friend, a guy I used to grab drinks with. And I still want to work it out, I know. So here's the cast. I'm a 41-year-old man who spent way too long confusing patience with paralysis. My wife is Elif, 38. Her boyfriend is Tarek, about 40, also known as my kid's best friend's dad. His ex-wife is Selim, who saw this coming before any of us. My brother Murat kept me sane. And Elif's father Hassan, her mother Nermin, and her brother Sem all play roles you won't see coming. The cracks didn't start with Tarek. They started with silence. Elif and I had been married for 9 years, and for the last 3 of those we lived like roommates who happened to share a child. She'd spend summers at her parents' place in her hometown, taking our son with her. I'd stay behind working, sending money, telling myself this was just what Turkish families did. Extended visits, cultural norms, nothing to worry about. I worried anyway. The money was its own kind of rot. Our whole relationship, I'd been the one carrying us financially. Elif didn't work, her choice, which I supported, but the spending never matched the earning. Credit cards. Loans for things I'd find out about months later. Secret keeping over money became so routine, I stopped calling it secret keeping. I just called it marriage. Then in early 2023, without a single conversation, without even a raised voice the night before I got served, divorce petition, filed in her name, and stapled behind it a restraining order claiming I was violent, that I'd threatened her, that our son wasn't safe around me. Every word fabricated. Every word devastating. Because in Turkey, a protection order means you're out. That day. No argument, no hearing first. You just leave your own home with whatever you can carry in a gym bag. I called Murat from a hotel parking lot, sitting in my car with the engine off, reading the petition over and over like the words might rearrange themselves into something that made sense. "Don't react," Murat said. "Don't call her. Don't text her. Document everything. Every single thing." So I did. I became a man made of spreadsheets. I tracked every financial transaction, screenshotted every message she sent, and she sent plenty. Daily texts telling me I was worthless, that I'd never see my son again, that her lawyer would bury me. I cataloged them all with timestamps, filed them in folders on my laptop like a man building a case. But I wasn't building a case. Not really. I was building a bridge back to her. Every piece of evidence I gathered, I told myself it was leverage to Times, fix things asterisk. To sit her down and say, "Times, look, I know what's happening now. Let's stop this and be a family again." Asterisk. Murat saw it. "You're collecting proof she's destroying you and using it to convince yourself she still loves you." I didn't answer him. Because he was right. 3 months into the separation, I was at my apartment, a rental I could barely afford, while still paying the mortgage on the house I wasn't allowed to enter, and I noticed something on my son's tablet. We shared a family location app. I hadn't checked it in weeks, but that night I opened it and saw the tablet pinging from an address I didn't recognize. Not Elif's parents' house. Not our home. An apartment complex on the other side of the city? I drove there. I don't know what I expected. Maybe I expected to feel nothing. Maybe I expected to turn around. I found them at a restaurant on the ground floor of the building. Elif and Tarek, sitting across from each other at a table by the window like it was the most natural thing in the world. My son was there too, sitting next to Tarek's kid, his best friend, coloring on a placemat. 2 families merged into one, and I was the only one who'd been cut out. My hands were shaking so badly I couldn't hold my phone steady enough to take a photo. I took one anyway. Then I went home and I didn't sleep for 3 days. The evidence came fast after that. Hotel check-in records, Elif's name, Tarek's name, same dates, same locations. Cab receipts from her account showing rides to his apartment at 11 p.m. 1 amen. 3 amen. And then scrolling through old messages on the family iPad my son used, I found it. A synced contact. Asterisk, asterisk, Tarek. Asterisk, asterisk. A flower. She gave him a flower emoji. This man I'd sat across from at barbecues, who'd clinked his beer against mine while our boys played in the yard, who'd looked me in the eye and asked how things were going with Elif. She'd saved his name with a little blossom next to it, like he was something precious and new. I called Celine, Tarek's ex-wife. She picked up on the first ring like she'd been waiting. "I know," she said. "I've known for over a year." She'd already left Tarek. Already had her own evidence. She told me things that made the timeline stretch back further than I'd imagined. Comments Tarek had made. Trips that didn't add up the way Elif had started showing up at school events. She'd never attended before. Always when. Tarek was volunteering. My lawyer sent everything to Elif's lawyer on a Thursday. By Friday, the daily insults stopped. The texts went silent. The woman who told me I'd never see my son again suddenly had nothing to say. Monday morning, her lawyer called mine. Elif wanted to retract the divorce filing. She wanted to come home. She said nothing had happened with Tarek. She said she loved me. And God help me, I almost believed her. Murat didn't yell. He just sat across from me at his kitchen table and said, "She's not coming back to you. She's running from the evidence." 6 weeks passed. Elif moved back into the house. I stayed in my rental. We existed in a cold, airless limbo. No calls, no texts, no contact at all. She had our son. I had my spreadsheets. Then one morning I woke up and something had shifted. Something behind my ribs, some load-bearing wall I'd been propping up for a decade, just gave way. I booked a bus ticket to her hometown. I called her father's house and told Hassan I was coming to talk to his daughter. He said fine. I walked into that living room, sat down across from Elif, and for the first time in our marriage, I said the words on times, my times, terms. I want the divorce. Elif stared at me. Then she picked up her coffee cup. She didn't throw it immediately. That's the part people never believe when I tell this story. There was a pause, maybe 2 seconds, maybe 3, where she held the cup at chest level and looked at me like she was calculating something. Not rage. Calculation. The same look she'd had when she filed the restraining order, when she retracted the divorce, when she moved back into the house without a single word of explanation. Then she threw it. The coffee hit me across the left side of my face and neck. It wasn't boiling. Turkish coffee cools fast in those small cups, but it was hot enough to make me gasp, hot enough to leave a red mark that lasted 3 days. The cup bounced off my shoulder and shattered on the tile floor. Elif stood up and said, "You don't get to decide when this ends." Then she walked out of her father's living room down the hall and slammed a door so hard the framed calligraphy above the sofa rattled against the wall. I sat there with coffee dripping off my jaw onto my shirt. Hassan was standing in the kitchen doorway. I don't know how long he'd been there. His face was the color of ash. "What did she do?" he said. Not a question. He'd seen it. She threw her coffee at me. Hassan didn't move for a long time. Then he walked down the hallway, and I heard him knock on the door. I heard Elif's voice muffled, defiant. I heard Hassan's voice get louder. Then I heard a name. Tariq. I hadn't told him. I hadn't told either of her parents. The restraining order, the divorce filing, the retraction they'd gotten, Elif's version of all of it. I was the bad husband. I was the reason she'd come home. I was the threat. But Hassan was saying Tariq's name and Elif was screaming back, and then her mother Nermin appeared from somewhere, the garden maybe, or a back room, and stood in the hallway with her hand over her mouth. I should have left. I know that now. But I couldn't move. The coffee was cooling on my skin, and I was listening to a family come apart through a closed door. Then Sem walked in. Elif's brother. 35, built like a wrestler, the kind of man who fills a doorframe. He'd come from somewhere nearby, a neighbor must have called, or maybe he'd been expected for lunch. He looked at me, looked at the coffee stain on my shirt, looked down the hallway where his father was shouting. "You found out about Tariq," he said. My stomach dropped. "You knew." Sem sat down across from me. The same chair Elif had been in. He put his hands flat on the table like he was bracing himself. I saw them. Months ago. At a cafe near the university. I told her to end it. And she told me to mind my own business. I stared at him. This man I'd spent holidays with, shared meals with. Called times AB, times out of respect, even though he was younger than me. He'd known, and he'd sat across from me at family dinners and said nothing. I thought she'd stop, Sem said. He couldn't look at me. I thought it was... I don't know. I thought she'd stop. Down the hallway, Hassan's voice hit a register I'd never heard from him. The door opened. Elif came out carrying a bag, not packed, just scrapped clothes spilling from the zipper. Hassan was behind her, pointing at the front door. "Not in my house," he said. "You don't bring this shame into my house." Elif looked at me as she passed through the living room. No tears. No remorse. Just that same calculation, recalibrating, figuring out her next move. She left. Nermin left 2 hours later. Took a bus back to the city without saying goodbye to anyone. She texted me that evening, one message, no follow-up times. Your wife didn't learn her lesson. Asterisk. Elif took our son to her aunt's place. Then she blocked my number, my WhatsApp, my email. She blocked Murat. She blocked my mother. She built a wall of silence around my child and dared me to climb it. 4 months. That's how long I went without hearing my son's voice. 4 months of calling a lawyer every week and being told times these things take time, asterisk. 4 months of driving past playgrounds and having to pull over. 4 months of waking up at 3 a.m. and checking the family location app, even though the tablet had been factory reset. She filed for divorce again. Second attempt. But this time, her arsenal was empty. The restraining order had been discredited, the fabricated allegations exposed, the infidelity documented with hotel records and cab receipts, and a contact saved with a flower emoji. Her own brother had confirmed the affair. Her own father had thrown her out. My lawyer filed the countersuit on infidelity grounds. In Turkish family law, that changes everything. Custody, compensation, the entire architecture of the settlement. It's been 18 months now. 18 months of litigation. I lost my job 7 months and too many court dates, too many sick days spent sitting in my rental staring at the wall. I lost the house because I couldn't pay a mortgage on a place I wasn't allowed to live in. I lost weight. I lost friends who got tired of hearing about it. But last month, Elif's lawyer called mine and said she'd agree to whatever compensation I demanded. The woman who threw coffee in my face, who fabricated a restraining order, who stole 4 months of my son's life, who saved another man's name with a blossom next to it, she's out of moves. Murat asked me if I felt vindicated. I told him I felt like a man who won a house fire. Everything I owned was inside. I raised my little sister like she was my own daughter. Paid for her school, her clothes, her food, her phone, her entire existence. And she repaid me by climbing into my husband's bed while I was 8 months pregnant and too sick to climb out of mine. So here's what happened. My sister spent months seducing my husband through Instagram reels and late night texts, convinced that stealing him meant stealing the lifestyle. What she didn't realize is that every dollar she ever envied was mine, not his. And by the time I finished gathering evidence, she destroyed the only relationship that was actually keeping her alive. I'm 34 female, and until recently I was funding everyone around me. My husband is Paul 37, the kind of man who doesn't start fires but will absolutely watch your house burn down. My sister is Vanessa. 22, hasn't worked a day in her life. Doesn't wake up before noon, and was still using the email account I created for her as a teenager. And my mother is Gloria, who tried her best to keep the peace right up until the moment peace was no longer an option. Let me take you back to the beginning, because betrayal doesn't arrive like a thunderstorm. It seeps in like carbon monoxide, odorless, invisible, and by the time you notice, you're already on the floor. My pregnancy was classified as high risk at 14 weeks. Preeclampsia. The doctor was blunt, bed rest monitoring, no stress. I remember looking at Paul when she said no stress, and almost laughing, because stress was the only thing that man consistently provided. Paul wasn't cruel during the pregnancy. He was something worse, absent. Not physically, he was in the house. He was on the couch. He was in the kitchen making himself dinner without asking if I'd eaten. He existed in the same square footage as me while operating like I was furniture. I asked him to come to my 20-week scan. He said he had a meeting. I asked him to come to the 24-week scan. He said he forgot. I asked him to come to the 28-week scan, and he looked at me like I was being unreasonable and said, "You never told me it was important." I never told him it was important. His wife, carrying his child, with a condition that could kill both of us, and he needed a formal invitation. But I rationalized it. I'm good at that. I told myself he was scared that some men process fear as distance, that once the baby arrived, he'd snap into place. I told myself every lie that exhausted pregnant women tell themselves at 3 a.m. when their husband is sleeping soundly and they can't breathe properly because their blood pressure is trying to end them. Meanwhile, Vanessa was living in our guest bedroom 3 days a week. My idea. I wanted help around the house since Paul clearly wasn't offering, and Vanessa had no job, no commitments, no reason to say no. She graduated with an undergraduate degree she didn't earn. She had yet to find her passion. That was the phrase she used, like passion was a set of lost car keys. Coming autumn, she was enrolling for her master's, and guess who was paying for it? Me. Always me. So she'd come over, make lunch, she didn't clean up, watch TV in the living room with Paul while I lay in bed upstairs listening to their laughter leak through the floor. I didn't think anything of it. She was my little sister. He was my husband. The geometry of suspicion didn't apply to them. My daughter was born 5 weeks early. Emergency C-section. I hemorrhaged on the table. They gave me 2 units of blood. When I woke up, Paul was in the chair beside me, scrolling his phone. He looked up and said, "Oh good, you're awake. Your mom's with the baby." Not, I was terrified. Not, thank God. Just logistics. The first 3 months postpartum were a fog of night feeds, stitches that wouldn't heal, and a husband who touched me only to hand me the baby when she cried. I was too depleted to analyze it. But my body knew something my mind hadn't caught up to yet because I stopped sleeping through the night even when the baby did. That's how I found him. 2:30 a.m. on a Tuesday. I woke up to a blue glow. Paul was lying on his side phone, tucked under the edge of his pillow, texting with the screen brightness turned down to almost nothing. When I shifted, he killed the screen so fast his knuckle cracked against the nightstand. "Who are you texting?" No one. Work group chat. At 2:30 a.m. Time zones, he said, and rolled over. Time zones. The man worked for a local insurance firm. Their most exotic client was a dentist in the next town over. I didn't push it. Not because I believed him, but because something cold and precise had just switched on inside me and it told me times don't react. Collect. Asterisk. Over the next 2 weeks I watched. Paul had started locking his phone, new behavior. He showered before bed now, instead of in the morning. He'd disappear into the garage to check on the car for 40 minutes at a time. And he was spending money. I found the trail on our shared PC where he'd forgotten to log out of his email. Hotel bookings at a boutique place 40 minutes outside the city. Restaurant bills at places he'd never taken me. A receipt from a women's clothing store, size 4. I'm a size on. I screenshotted everything, saved it to a folder labeled Tax Documents 2024, and I waited. The identity of the other woman was the one piece I couldn't crack. No name in the bookings, no tagged photos, just charges, times, and a pattern that told me this had been going on for months, overlapping almost perfectly with my 3rd trimester. So I made the mistake that broke the case wide open. I called Vanessa. I told her I thought Paul was cheating. I asked for her advice. She gasped in all the right places. She said all the right words. And within 6 hours, Paul casually mentioned that I should stop snooping through his emails because it was a violation of trust. I hadn't told a single other soul. My hands went numb. I stood in my kitchen holding a bottle of formula and the room tilted. Because there was only one person who could have told him. And that person had just revealed not only that she was his informant, but exactly how close to him she actually was. The next morning, I woke up before dawn. Vanessa was asleep in the guest room. My mother was babysitting my daughter in the living room, and I sat down at my iPad with a clarity I hadn't felt in months. While she was sleeping, I logged into her email on my iPad. It wasn't difficult. She was still using the same email ID I created for her when she was in her teens. I just needed the one-time password, which I checked through the lock screen of her phone She'd left it charging on the kitchen counter face up like someone who'd never once had to worry about being surveilled. Because I'd never given her a reason to. Then through that, I accessed all of her backed up WhatsApp chats. I transferred everything to my email ID. I also logged into her Instagram and Facebook using the email ID and fetched everything I could. It didn't take time. Besides, it was still 9 inches the morning and she doesn't wake up before 12. My mother was babysitting my daughter while I was gathering the evidence. She was suspicious to find me doing something intently on the iPad instead of resting. She asked if everything was okay. I told her I was handling some work invoices. She nodded and went back to singing to the baby. The WhatsApp thread between Vanessa and Paul was 4217 messages long. I didn't read them all that morning. I didn't need to. The first 50 told me the architecture. The Instagram DMs filled in the blueprint. It started with Reels. She'd send him funny clips, memes, the kind of low-stakes digital flirtation that gives you plausible deniability. Then selfies. Then selfies with captions. Then selfies without clothes. Then logistics, where to meet, what time I'd be asleep, how long my doctor's appointments lasted. She had used my medical schedule as her affair calendar. One message sent during my 32nd week of pregnancy read times. She's on bed rest till delivery. We have time. Asterisk. My vision went white. Not red. White. Like every color in the world had been burned out of my retinas. I saved everything. Organized it chronologically. Then I closed the iPad, washed my face, and called my parents. I told my father to bring Gloria over that afternoon. I told him it was a family matter. He didn't ask questions. He never does when my voice sounds like that. Paul was at work. Vanessa serviced around 1230, shuffling into the kitchen in pajama shorts. I bought her eating cereal from a bowl I purchased for my home. She smiled at me, asked how the baby slept. Fine, I said. My parents are coming over at 3. I need you here. For what? Family meeting. She shrugged. Didn't even flinch. By 3 p.m., everyone was seated in my living room. My father in the armchair. Gloria on the love seat, already nervous because she could read the room's temperature. Paul on the couch, leg bouncing. And Vanessa cross-legged on the floor with a glass of juice, looking bored. I stood. I didn't sit because sitting would make this a discussion. Standing made it a verdict. Vanessa, I said, tell everyone in this room what you've been doing with my husband. The glass of juice stopped halfway to her mouth. Paul's leg stopped bouncing. Gloria's hand went to her chest. What are you talking about? Vanessa said, but her voice had already cracked on Times, talking asterisk. I have 4,000 messages. I have the photos you sent him. I have the hotel confirmations. I have the shopping receipts, size 4, Vanessa. Tell them, or I read every word out loud, starting with the one where you said, my bed rest gave you time, asterisk. Silence. The kind that has weight. Then Paul, listen, let's not. You don't speak. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. You will get your turn when the divorce papers arrive. Vanessa started crying. Performative at first, the kind of tears she'd used since childhood to redirect blame. But I didn't move. I didn't comfort. I stood there like a wall and waited. Fine, she whispered, then louder, fine. Yes, it happened. How long? Since before the baby. Gloria made a sound like she'd been punched. Tell them why, I said. Tell them exactly why. And this is where Vanessa made her final miscalculation. She could have begged. She could have crumbled. Instead, something bitter and honest broke through the performance. And she looked at me with 12 years of swallowed resentment and said, "Because I was done being your puppet. You held everything over me, school, clothes, rent. You got to be the generous one, and I got to be grateful forever. I wanted something that was times yours, times for once. Something you couldn't give me permission to have." The room didn't breathe. Gloria stood up and slapped her. "Open palm." The sound cracked through the living room like a branch snapping. My father caught Gloria's arm before the second one landed. I looked at my sister, this girl I had fed, clothed, educated, and loved, with every maternal instinct I had before my own daughter existed, and I said the last words I would ever say to her in that house. The money was never his. Every dollar, the tuition, the car, the clothes on your back right now, that was mine. My business. My accounts. My savings. You didn't steal from him. You stole from times me asterisk. And you didn't even get the math right. Her face collapsed. Not from guilt. From the realization that she'd burned down the wrong house. I filed for divorce within 20 days. My lawyer was surgical. The house was mine, purchased before the marriage, titled in my name. Full custody was uncontested. Paul didn't fight it because fighting required a spine he'd never grown. My private savings, my business accounts, my investments, none of it was joint. Paul walked away with his clothes, his car payment, and a child support obligation he immediately couldn't afford. He moved back to his parents' two-bedroom house. Vanessa, I learned through Gloria, was given 60 days to find employment or leave their home. Paul and Vanessa didn't last. Of course they didn't. She wanted the lifestyle. He times the lifestyles plus one. Without me funding the machinery, there was nothing between them but 4-2-1-7 messages and a hotel room neither of them could book again. Gloria calls me weekly. She cries. She asks if I'll ever forgive Vanessa. I tell her I love her and I change the subject. That's the only answer I have that isn't cruel. Last night, my daughter grabbed my finger and babbled something that sounded almost like a word. I sat on the floor of the house that is mine in the silence that is mine, and I felt something I hadn't felt in over a year. Not happiness. Not yet. But space. Clean, empty, unparasitized space. And for now, that's enough.
I should have known from the start. That's what everyone says, right? Hindsight is a bastard like that. When I met Anna, it was like the world switched from black and white to color. I was the quiet programmer, the guy who preferred a book to a bar. She was all laughter and bright red lipstick. A whirlwind who pulled me out of my shell and spun me around until I was dizzy and desperately in love. We were married within 6 months. A year after that, life was good, simple, predictable. I liked predictable. Then Ryan moved in. It started with a frantic, tearful phone call. Anna's uncle, her mom's brother, had died of a sudden heart attack. His son Ryan, her cousin, was a wreck. He was 25, same age as Anna, and had been living at home. Now the house had to be sold. He has nowhere to go, Sam, Anna said, her voice thick with grief. He's all alone. Can he just stay with us? Just for a little while until he gets on his feet. What was I supposed to say? No. Of course, he could stay. I squeezed her hand and told her we'd make it work. I felt for the guy. The red flag started waving the first night he was there. I walked in from work and the smell hit me immediately. A rich, garlicky buttery smell that made my throat start to itch. Shrimp scampi. I'm allergic to shellfish. Not an I'll get a little rash allergy, but an I can't breathe call an ambulance kind of allergy. Anna knew this better than anyone. I found her in the kitchen laughing with Ryan as she stirred the pasta. She looked happier than I'd seen her in weeks. Hey, I said, trying to keep my voice casual. Smells potent. Anna glanced over her smile, faltering for a split second. Oh my God. Sam. I completely forgot. I'm so sorry. She didn't look sorry. She looked annoyed. Ryan loves seafood, it's his comfort food. I wasn't thinking. It's fine, I lied. My throat felt tight. I'll just order a pizza or something. There's leftover chicken from 2 nights ago, she offered, already turning back to the stove. Ryan gave me a sympathetic little smirk. Sorry, man. My bad. I ate 2-day-old chicken alone in my home office while they ate shrimp scampi at the dining table, their laughter echoing down the hall. That was the beginning. Anna, who used to text me throughout the day, went silent. When I'd get home, she and Ryan would be deep in conversation, which would stop the second I walked into the room. She started cooking seafood at least twice a week, always with the same breezy, "Oops, I forgot again." My kitchen, my own damn house, became a minefield of potential anaphylaxis. The distance wasn't just emotional. She stopped touching me. A kiss on the cheek before work became a quick mumbled bye. When I tried to pull her close in bed, she'd stiffen. I'm tired, Sam, she'd sigh, rolling over to face the wall. My suspicion started to feel less like paranoia and more like self-preservation. I tried to talk to my best friend Mark about it. We were grabbing a beer after I'd had to air out the entire house because Anna decided to make lobster bisque. I don't know, man, I said, swirling the condensation on my glass. It's just weird. They're always together, whispering, laughing. And the way she looks at him. Dude, they're cousins, Mark said, taking a long pull from his beer. Family. His dad just died. She's probably just being supportive. You're being a little possessive, don't you think? Possessive, she's my wife. She put her legs on his lap the other night while they were watching a movie. I had walked into the living room to ask if they wanted a drink. The lights were low. Anna was curled on one end of the couch, Ryan on the other. Her bare feet were resting on his thighs, and he had one hand resting casually on her ankle. They didn't move when I came in. They just stared at me, their private little bubble broken. The air was so thick with something. I could barely breathe. It felt more intimate than anything I'd shared with my wife in months. Mark shrugged. Okay, that's a little weird, I'll give you that. But incest? Come on, Sam. That's soap opera stuff. You're just not used to having another guy in the house. You're overthinking it. Give it time. He was probably right. I was an introvert. A born overthinker. I was just jealous and insecure. I tried to believe it. I really did. I tried to be the supportive husband. I'd ask Ryan how his job search was going. I'd make friendly conversation. But it was like I was a ghost in my own home. They were a unit, and I was the awkward, inconvenient third wheel. The breaking point was a Tuesday. I got a text from Anna around noon. Asterisk. Can't wait for tonight. He'll be gone soon. Asterisk. My heart hammered against my ribs. A cold dread washed over me. He'll be gone soon. She was talking about me. She had to be. Then a second text buzzed through. Asterisk. Oops, sorry, that was for my sister. We're planning a surprise for you, asterisk. A surprise? Right. My hands were shaking so bad I had to put my phone down on my desk. My brain was screaming at me. Asterisk lies. It's all lies. Asterisk. I couldn't focus. I stared at the lines of code on my screen, but they were just a meaningless jumble. Every dismissive comment, every plate of seafood, every shared glance between them replayed in my head. I wasn't overthinking. I wasn't paranoid. Something was terribly, horribly wrong in my house. I packed up my laptop. Feeling sick, I mumbled to my boss, "Gotta go home." I drove, but I didn't go straight home. I circled the block, parking down the street where I could see the front door. What was I even doing? What did I expect to find? I felt insane, like a stalker casing my own life. Mark's voice was in my head times. "You're being possessive, man." Asterisk. Maybe he was right. Maybe I'd walk in and find Anna planning a surprise party with her sister on a video call. I'd feel like the world's biggest asshole. But my gut, that primal animal instinct deep inside, was screaming that I was walking into an ambush. For nearly an hour, I just sat there watching my house. The curtains were drawn. The place looked dead. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I had to know. I pulled the car around the corner and into our driveway. The house was silent as I walked up the path. I slid my key into the lock. It wouldn't turn. I tried again. Nothing. It was deadbolted. From the inside. We never used the deadbolt. Not when one of us was home. Never. My blood ran cold. He'll be gone soon. They thought I was gone. They thought they were alone. They were in there together behind a locked door. I stood there, key in the dead-bolted lock, and my entire world tilted on its axis. My breath hitched. He'll be gone soon. They thought I was gone. They were in there. A red rage, hot and blinding, washed over me. I wanted to kick the door down, to scream, to shatter the quiet little life they were carving up inside my house. But a colder, smarter part of me took over. Kicking the door in would make me the villain. I'd be the crazy, jealous husband. They'd twist it. Anna was a master at twisting things. I backed away from the door, my hands shaking. I walked. I didn't know where I was going, just that I couldn't be there. I ended up at the small park 2 blocks away, slumping onto a bench overlooking the duck pond. My mind was a hurricane of betrayal. I sat there for I don't know how long, just staring at the water, feeling my marriage dissolve into nothing. Then I saw them. They were walking along the path at the far side of the pond, hand in hand. Not a friendly, familial handhold. Their fingers were interlaced tight. They stopped under a willow tree, and the world seemed to slow down. Anna looked up at Ryan, her face full of an adoration I hadn't seen directed at me in over a year. He leaned down and kissed her. It wasn't a peck. It was a deep, passionate kiss, his hand sliding from hers to cup the back of her head, pulling her into him. I stood up. The world was strangely silent. As I walked towards them, my feet crunching on the gravel path. They didn't see me until I was 10 feet away. They sprang apart like guilty teenagers. Anna's eyes went wide with panic. "Sam." She gasped, her voice unnaturally high. "What are you doing here? I thought you were at work." "The door was deadbolted," I said. My own voice was flat dead. I came home early. I looked from her flushed face to Ryan's smug one. What was that? What was what Anna said, forcing a laugh? I was just giving him a hug. A sibling hug. He's been so down lately. Ryan nodded, playing along. Yeah, man. Just family stuff. A sibling hug. The lie was so blatant, so insulting, it was like a slap in the face. They were standing there lying to my face about what I had just seen with my own two eyes. A sibling hug, I repeated, a bitter taste in my mouth. Right? You kiss all your family members like that, Anna. You're being crazy, she snapped, her panic turning to anger. You're paranoid, and you're seeing things that aren't there. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're suffocating me. I just looked at her. The woman I loved was gone. This person in front of me was a stranger, a venomous, calculating stranger. I turned and walked away without another word. I had my answer. Now I needed proof. The plan formed on the drive to a 2-4-hour electronics store. It was cold, methodical, and felt utterly insane. I bought 3 tiny cameras, the kind that look like USB chargers. I spent the night on Mark's couch, ignoring his questions. The next morning, I called Anna. My voice was steady. Listen, I said, I'm sorry about yesterday. You're right, I overreacted. I've been stressed. I could almost hear her relief through the phone. It's okay, honey. I get it. I have to go to London for a couple of days, I lied. Emergency project meeting. I'm heading to the airport from the office. I'll be back Thursday night. Oh, okay, well. Be safe, she said, the excitement barely contained in her voice. Perfect. I waited until I knew she'd left for work, then I let myself into my own house. The place felt tainted. I worked fast. 1 camera in the living room pointed at the couch, 1 in our bedroom tucked on the bookshelf. The last one I put in the kitchen facing the dining table. I connected them to a cloud storage account on a brand new untraceable email address. Then I went to a cheap motel near the airport and opened my laptop. I waited. For hours, I just watched an empty house. My house. Then around 6, they came home together laughing. They were carrying bags of groceries. I saw a lobster tail sticking out of one. I watched as they cooked together, drinking wine. I watched them eat at my table. I watched them move to the couch. I saw him kiss her and her hand slide down his chest. I saw enough. I shut the laptop, feeling sick to my stomach. I didn't need to see the rest. The next day, I checked the feed again. The camera in the bedroom was offline. Then the one in the living room blinked out. They'd found them. A cold knot of fear tightened in my gut, but it was quickly replaced by a grim satisfaction. I already had what I needed. The clips were saved. The truth was downloaded. I drove home Thursday night just like I said I would. I walked in and found Anna on the couch reading a book. She looked up, feigning a welcoming smile. Hey, how was London? There was no trip to London, I said, dropping my keys on the table. We need to talk. Her smile vanished. What's wrong? I know, Anna. She played dumb. You know what? I know about you and Ryan. I saw a flicker of panic in her eyes, but she held my gaze. "I told you, Sam, you're imagining things. You're being possessive." "Am I?" I took out my phone, pulled up the first video, and placed it on the coffee table in front of her. It was the clip of them in the kitchen kissing passionately over the stove. She watched it, her face a mask of stone. The color drained from her cheeks. She didn't deny it. She didn't cry. She just looked up at me, her eyes cold as ice. "So, you know," she said, her voice chillingly calm. "What are you going to do?" The lack of remorse was stunning. "What am I going to do? I'm ending this. Pack your things." She laughed. A dry, humorless sound. "You naive idiot. Did you really think I loved you?" Every word was a punch. "What are you talking about?" "Ryan and I have always been together," she said, a cruel smirk on her face. "Since we were teenagers. But our family, they wouldn't approve. It's easier this way. You were a good cover, Sam. The stable, boring husband no one would ever suspect." I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. My marriage wasn't just a failure. It was a fabrication. A lie I had lived and breathed for 2 years. Then she delivered the final disgusting blow. "It doesn't have to end," she said, leaning forward. "We can make this work. We can have an open thing. You get to stay married, I get to have him. It's perfect." The rage I'd been suppressing finally broke free. "Get out." I pointed to the door. "Get out of my house. Both of you. Now." She got out. But the war had just begun. The next day, my phone rang. It was my mother, her voice trembling with fury. "Sam, what in God's name did you do to that poor girl?" Her father just called us screaming. He said, "You're a violent, possessive monster, that you planted cameras all over the house to spy on her." The lies. They were already spreading, poisoning everything. I was being painted as the abuser. Anna was the victim. I hung up, my blood boiling. This was their game. To destroy me, to ruin my reputation, to make me the villain so they could be the martyrs. Pushed to the extreme, I did the only thing I could. I created a new email. I attached the video files, the kitchen, the living room couch. I sent it to 2 addresses: Anna's parents and Ryan's mother. The subject line was simple. Asterisk. The truth. Asterisk. The phone calls stopped. The threats stopped. All of it. There was just silence. A deep, profound, and damning silence. I filed for divorce the next day. The process was brutally fast. She didn't contest a thing. I got a restraining order against both of them. The house, which had been my prison, became my sanctuary again. I threw out every plate, every glass, every single thing she had ever touched. The divorce is final now. The quiet in my house is different. It's not lonely, it's peaceful. But sometimes in the dead of night, I still wake up with the phantom smell of seafood in the air, a ghost of the betrayal that I'm still learning how to live with. Mark and I had a 5-year plan. It was spreadsheets and automatic transfers, and saying no to a lot of fancy dinners. The goal, a wedding. Not just any wedding, but times our times wedding. The one with the 100-year-old oak tree. We'd get married under the string quartet playing movie scores and a ridiculously expensive photographer to capture it all. Every dollar was earned, every detail agonized over. When I finally found my dress a cascade of lace and tiny hand-sewn pearls, I cried. Not because I was getting married, but because the dream we had sketched out on a napkin 5 years ago was finally tangibly real. My younger sister Stacy took a different approach. She met Kevin, a guy with a charming smile, and not much else, and 6 months later they were at the courthouse. I was her witness. She wore a white sundress from Marshall's. It was efficient. She seemed happy enough, but I always caught a wistful look in her eye whenever I talked about my own wedding plans. It started innocently. We were grabbing coffee, and I was showing her the mock-ups for our floral arrangements. "It's all so beautiful, Lore," she said, tracing the picture of a peony on my laptop screen. "Just magical. We've been saving forever for this magic," I laughed. She sighed, a deep, heavy sound that didn't fit her usual bubbly personality. "I just wish I'd had a moment. You know, one real magical bridal moment. Kevin and I were so rushed. We just wanted to be married, but I missed all this." She gestured vaguely at my screen. I felt a pang of sympathy. "You can always do a vow renewal for your 10-year anniversary. We could plan a huge party." Her eyes lit up, but not in the way I expected. "I have a better idea." She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "What if I just had my moment at your wedding?" I blinked. "What do you mean?" "Like a special dance with Kevin." "No," she said, her grin widening. "I mean, what if I walked down the aisle too, in a dress? You get your turn and then I get mine. A sister act wedding." I burst out laughing. A loud snorting laugh that made the guy at the next table look over. "Oh my God, Stace. That's hilarious. For a second there I thought you were serious." Her smile froze. The light in her eyes flickered and went out. "I am serious, Lauren." The laughter died in my throat. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw she wasn't joking. The silence stretched thick and awkward. "Stacy, no. That's not a thing. You can't be a bride at my wedding." "Why not?" she shot back, her voice suddenly sharp. "It's one walk down an aisle. It wouldn't take anything away from you. You'd still be the main bride, obviously. I just want to feel that feeling. You know, everyone looking at me in a beautiful white dress." I was so flabbergasted, I couldn't even form a coherent sentence. I think I just stammered something about it being my and Mark's day before making an excuse about a vendor call and practically running out of the coffee shop. I figured she was having a weird moment. A quarter-life crisis, maybe. I was sure she'd text me later, laughing it off. The text I got an hour later was a picture. It was a screenshot from a bridal website. A simple, elegant A-line gown. The message underneath read times. "What do you think of this one for my walk? I think it's simple enough not to upstage you XX*." My blood ran cold. This wasn't a weird moment. This was a plan. I called her immediately. "Stacy, what the hell was that text? We are not doing this." "Don't be like that," she whined. "I'm your sister. I just want one small thing. A 5-minute walk." "No," my voice was louder than I intended. "The answer is no. It's insane that you're even asking." I hung up my hand, shaking. That I thought would be the end of it. I was so wrong. The next day my mom called. "Lauren, honey, I spoke to your sister. She's heartbroken." "Mom, you can't possibly think her idea is reasonable." Well, she began in that placating tone she uses when she's about to completely invalidate my feelings. It is a little unconventional. But she's your only sister. She made a mistake rushing her own wedding. And she just wants a do-over. You're getting this huge perfect day. Would it really kill you to share a tiny piece of it? A tiny piece. Mom, she wants to walk down the aisle in a wedding dress. I could feel my voice rising. My cheeks getting hot. This isn't sharing. This is hijacking. Don't be a bridezilla, Lauren. Family helps family. She's just asking for a moment. It was like talking to a brick wall. A brick wall that thought I was the selfish one. The conversation ended with her sighing about my lack of compassion and me hanging up before I screamed. Then came the text from Kevin, Stacy's husband. Asterisk. Not cool what you're doing to Stacy. She gave you her blessing to have this big fancy party, even though it makes her feel bad about our wedding, and you can't even give her one little thing. Some sister you are. Asterisk. My jaw dropped. He was trying to guilt trip me for having the wedding Mark and I had paid for ourselves. For making his wife feel bad because we hadn't settled for a 10-minute ceremony with a justice of the peace. The audacity was staggering. The pressure was constant. Every day brought a new text, a new call, a new guilt trip. Stacy would send me more dress pictures. My mom would call to tell me how Stacy was crying all the time. I started screening their calls. My wedding, this beautiful thing I had been building for years, was starting to feel tainted, coated in a layer of family drama and resentment. I felt like I was going crazy. Was I the selfish one? Was I the a-hole for wanting my own wedding day to be about me and my future husband? The breaking point came on a Friday night. Mark and I had just opened a bottle of wine and were finalizing our seating chart. It was the first moment of peaceful, happy wedding planning I'd had in a week. Then a knock on the door. It was Stacy and Kevin. They had a Tupperware container of cookies and fake smiles plastered on their faces. An ambush. We were in the neighborhood, Stacy chirped, pushing past me into our apartment. They made small talk for a few minutes while my stomach twisted into a knot. Mark, bless his oblivious heart, was just happy to see them. Then Stacy made her move. She turned to Mark, her eyes wide and glistening with unshed tears. Mark, I need your help. I asked Lauren for a very small favor for the wedding, and she's treating me like I'm a monster. Mark looked from her to me, confused. A favor? What's up? Stacy took a deep breath, clutching Kevin's hand for dramatic effect. I regret not having a real wedding so much. I asked Lauren if after she has her walk, I could have a turn. Just a quick walk down the aisle in a white dress, so I can have that bridal moment I never got. She looked at him, her expression a perfect blend of hope and pathetic desperation. She thought he would be the easy Mark, the calm, reasonable one who would talk his crazy bridezilla fiancé down. Mark stared at her for a beat. Then he tipped his head back and laughed. A big, booming, genuine laugh, just like I had. A Sister Act wedding, he chuckled, wiping a tear from his eye. Stacy, that's the funniest thing I've ever heard. You almost had me. Stacy's face crumpled. Kevin's jaw tightened, and he stood up. It's not a joke, man. Mark's laughter stopped. He looked from Kevin's furious face to Stacy's tear-streaked one and then to me. His smile vanished. Wait, he said, his voice flat with disbelief. You're serious? The atmosphere in the room turned to ice. Stacy let out a sob. You see, she cried, pointing a trembling finger at me. You've turned him against me. 2. You're both just cruel. All I wanted was one moment, and you're laughing at me. Kevin wrapped his arm around her. Come on, babe. Let's go. We're not welcome here. He shot me a look of pure venom. I hope you're happy, Lauren. You got your perfect wedding, and all it cost you was your family. They stormed out, slamming the door behind them. Mark and I were left standing in the silence, the seating chart completely forgotten. He wrapped his arms around me, but I felt numb. They had cornered us in our own home. They had tried to manipulate my fiancé. They had called me cruel and selfish over and over until a tiny part of me almost started to believe it. That was it. I was done being the victim in my own wedding story. I pulled away from Mark. My mind suddenly clear. A cold, hard resolve settled in my chest. This wasn't going to be solved with tearful phone calls or angry texts. This required a final, definitive showdown. I pulled out my phone, my fingers flying across the screen. I created a group chat. Me, Mark, Stacy, and Kevin. Asterisk brunch. Sunday, 11 a.m. My treat times, I type. Asterisk. We are settling this once and for all. Asterisk. I barely slept for 2 days. Mark kept telling me to let it go, that he'd handle it, but he couldn't. This was my family, my sister. This was my mess to clean up. We got to the brunch spot first. I picked a table on the patio tucked into a corner. It was bright and loud, full of people laughing over mimosas. The opposite of how I felt inside. Stacy and Kevin arrived a few minutes later. He had a proprietary arm around her shoulders, guiding her like a prize fighter. She wouldn't meet my eye. They sat, and a waitress immediately appeared. Can I get you all started with some drinks? She asked, chipper and oblivious. Mimosas for us, Kevin said, gesturing between himself and Stacy. Just water for me, I said. Mark echoed me. I needed a clear head. The moment the waitress left, I put my hands flat on the table. Okay. We're not ordering food until we're done. No more texts, no more surprise visits, no more phone calls to mom. We are finishing this right now. Kevin smirked. Good. So you're finally going to be reasonable and let your sister have her 5 minutes of fame. I ignored him, looking directly at Stacy. Stace, I love you. You're my sister and my best friend. But the answer is no. It will always be no. Her face hardened. Because you're selfish. No, I said, my voice dangerously calm. Because you're asking me to set a match to the single most expensive, important, and personal day of my life so you can play dress up. You are a married woman. You had a wedding. It might not have been this wedding, but it was yours. This one is mine. And Mark's. It's just a walk, she pleaded, her voice cracking. Kevin and I never got to. Stop, Mark cut in, his voice low and firm. It was the first time he'd spoken. Just stop, both of you. This isn't about you not getting a walk, Kevin. This is about you being jealous that we can afford the wedding you couldn't. The shot landed. Kevin's face turned a blotchy red. You have no idea what you're talking about. Don't I? Mark leaned forward. You've been making snide comments about our fancy party for months. You convinced my fiancé's sister that she's a victim because we saved our money. You want to spoil our day because it makes you feel better about your own choices. He's not, Stacy started. but the protest died on her lips. I'm not the one on trial here, I said, pulling our focus back. I am. Apparently, I'm a cruel, selfish bridezilla. My own mother thinks so. My own sister thinks so. I pulled out my phone and set it on the table. Since my feelings and Mark's feelings didn't seem to matter, I decided to ask for an outside opinion. I'd spent all of Saturday writing it out. Every detail. The request, the dress photos, Mom's phone calls, Kevin's text, the ambush in our apartment. I posted it on Reddit. I wrote down everything that's happened and posted it anonymously online. I said, my voice steady. I asked thousands of complete strangers a simple question. Am I the asshole for not letting my married sister have a second bridal march at my wedding? Stacy stared at the phone like it was a snake. Kevin scoffed. Oh, please. You probably twisted the whole story. I didn't have to, I said, tapping the screen and turning it towards them. I scrolled, letting them see the title, the post, and then the replies. Hundreds of them, then thousands. Asterisk NTA. Your sister and her husband are unhinged. Asterisk. Asterisk. This is the most narcissistic request I have ever heard. Asterisk. Asterisk, uninvite all of them. Your mom, your sister, her leech of a husband. Set fire to the whole relationship. Asterisk. Asterisk. Your sister needs to get a grip. This is your day. She is already married. Asterisk. I kept scrolling. Comment after comment, a tidal wave of unanimous judgment, all aimed directly at them. I didn't have to say a word. The screen said it all. Stacy's breath hitched. A single tear rolled down her cheek, then another. Kevin grabbed the phone, his eyes scanning frantically, looking for a single comment in their favor. There wasn't one. This is bullshit, he spat, shoving the phone back across the table. A bunch of losers on the internet. But the damage was done. Stacy wasn't looking at him. She was looking at me, her face crumbling into a mask of pure misery. They're right, aren't they? She whispered. The sound was so small I barely heard it over the patio chatter. It's insane. The whole thing. She dropped her face into her hands, her shoulders shaking with huge silent sobs. Stacy, babe, don't listen to them, Kevin said, trying to pull her hands away from her face. No, she shrieked, yanking away from him. Her head snapped up, her eyes wild and red-rimmed, and she pointed a shaking finger at him. This was you. This was all you. Kevin looked stunned. What are you talking about? You couldn't stand it, she sobbed. You couldn't stand that Lauren and Mark had this perfect life, this perfect wedding. Every time she'd show me a picture of the venue or the flowers, you'd whisper in my ear later. Doesn't that make you sad? Don't you wish you had that? She should share it with you. You're her sister. She owes you. The confession hung in the air, ugly and raw. And Mom, Stacy turned her glare on me, though the anger was gone, replaced by desperation. She just egged him on. She said I deserved a do-over, and that your wedding was the perfect opportunity. They made me feel so small, Lore. So pathetic for my little courthouse wedding. They made me believe I was entitled to a piece of yours. Kevin stood up so fast, his chair screeched against the stone patio. I was just trying to stand up for my wife. No, I said, standing to meet his gaze. My voice was ice. You were trying to ruin my wedding. You saw her insecurity and you weaponized it to soothe your own fragile ego. You are a poison, Kevin. I pulled my wallet out and threw 2 20s on the table. Get out. He stared at me, then at Stacy, who refused to look at him. With a final disgusted sneer, he turned and stormed away, pushing past the waitress who was cautiously approaching with their mimosas. The moment he was gone, all the fight went out of Stacy. She just sat there weeping into her hands. Mark squeezed my shoulder, then nodded. I'll get the car, he said, leaving us alone. I sat down next to my sister in the chair Kevin had abandoned. I put my arm around her shaking shoulders, and she collapsed against me, crying like she had when we were kids and she'd scraped her knee. I'm so sorry, Laura, she choked out between sobs. I'm so sorry. I ruined everything. Shh. No, you didn't, I whispered, rubbing her back. You just let the wrong people get in your head. We sat like that for a long time, the sounds of brunch fading into the background. Finally, her sobs quieted. She pulled back, wiping her eyes. He's not invited, obviously. I don't even know if I can go home to him. You can stay with us as long as you need, I said without hesitation. A wave of relief washed over her face. I took a deep breath. There was one last thing to do. One last piece to fix. Stace, I said, taking her hands. I still want you at my wedding. More than anyone. She shook her head. I can't. I'd be too ashamed. No, listen to me. I squeezed her hands tight. I don't have Dad to walk me down the aisle. I was going to do it alone. But I don't want to. Her eyes widened, confusion mixing with dawning understanding. I want you to walk with me, I said, my own tears finally starting to fall. Not as a bride, as my sister, my maid of honor, in a gorgeous dress that matches the bridesmaids standing by my side. Will you please walk down the aisle with me, Stacy? Her breath caught in a sob, but this time it was different. It was a sound of release, of grace. She threw her arms around my neck, burying her face in my shoulder. Yes, she whispered. Oh my God, Laura. Yes. In that moment, nestled in the corner of a noisy patio surrounded by the wreckage of a terrible idea, we found our way back. The wedding wasn't tainted anymore. If anything, it was stronger. It was a day we had fought for, not just financially, but emotionally. And when I pictured myself walking towards that 100-year-old oak tree, I no longer saw myself walking alone. I saw my sister right there by my side. I remember the exact weight of the invitation in my hand. It was thick, creamy cardstock, the kind of paper that costs an obscene amount per sheet. Maria and I had spent a whole Saturday picking it out, laughing as we ran our fingers over different textures, feeling like real honest-to-God adults. The final proof had our names embossed in a deep navy blue, a simple, elegant script that screamed, forever. We sent out 112 of them. 112 little packets of joy and obligation mailed off to the people we wanted to watch us promise our lives to each other. 112, not 113. My brother Turk didn't get one. You don't invite the architect of your biggest heartbreak to the celebration of your greatest happiness. It's just not done. 5 years ago, I didn't have nice cardstock. I had a flimsy key to the apartment I shared with my then girlfriend Jen. I came home early from a work trip, a stupidly oversized teddy bear, buckled into the passenger seat planning a surprise. The surprise, it turned out, was on me. I heard the noises before I even got the door fully open. The kind of rhythmic, guttural sounds that your brain refuses to process for a full 3 seconds. Then the smell hit me, not Jen's perfume, but a cheap musky cologne I knew better than my own. Turk's cologne. The door swung open. They were in our living room. My living room. On the rug I'd spent 2 hours haggling for at a flea market. They didn't even have the decency to do it in the bedroom. My brother was on top of my girlfriend, and the giant teddy bear I was holding stared at them with its dead plastic eyes. They froze. The only thing I remember with perfect clarity is Jen's mouth, a perfect O of shock, and the tattoo on Turk's shoulder blade, a snarling wolf I dared him to get when he was 17. He just stared at me over her shoulder, not with guilt, but with a kind of defiant annoyance, like I was the one who had interrupted something important. I dropped the bear. I didn't say a word. I just turned around, walked out, and closed the door behind me. The next 24 hours were a blur of betrayal. Jen called me sobbing, not apologizing but explaining. It just happened, she'd cried. We have a connection, Arthur. You can't fight a connection like this. She broke up with me over the phone while I was sitting in a grimy motel room 2 towns over. Then I got a text from Maria, Turk's girlfriend at the time. All it said was, "Times, he just broke up with me. Said he's in love with Jen. Call me when you can." Asterisk. So we were a matched set. The jilted siblings-in-law that never were. Turk and Jen bonded by their grand passion. Maria and me bonded by the shrapnel. I expected my parents to be furious. I expected my dad to call Turk and rip him a new one to tell him he'd broken a sacred code. I expected my mom to comfort me, to call Jen every name in the book. What I got was something else entirely. I drove to their house a week later, hollowed out and sleep-deprived. Mom met me at the door and hugged me, but it felt procedural. "Your brother and Jen stopped by yesterday," she said, leading me to the kitchen. "They look so happy, Arthur." I stopped dead. "Happy, Mom? He slept with my girlfriend. They blew up 4 lives." Dad walked in, wiping his hands on a dish towel. "Now, son, let's not be dramatic. These things happen. The heart wants what it wants." The heart, I heard my voice crack. He didn't follow his heart, Dad. He followed his zipper into my living room. "Language," Mom chided, setting a glass of iced tea in front of me that I had no intention of drinking. Turk explained it all. He and Jen had been fighting their feelings for months. It wasn't fair to you or Maria to keep living a lie. They had swallowed his story whole. Turk, the romantic hero, unable to deny his epic love. Not Turk, the selfish asshole who couldn't be bothered to break up with his girlfriend before screwing mine. He was and always had been the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. Any mistake he made was reframed as a bold, brave choice. My pain was just collateral damage in his heroic journey. They even gushed about how Turk and Jen were a power couple. My stomach turned. That was the last time I really tried to talk to them about it. The only person who understood was Maria. We met for coffee that first week, 2 zombies staring into our cups. We didn't have to explain anything to each other. We just sat in the shared miserable silence. That silence turned into talking. Talking turned into long walks. Walks turned into dinners. One night a year later, she was laughing at one of my terrible jokes. Her head tilted back and I realized I wasn't thinking about Turk or Jen anymore. I was only thinking about her. We built a new life on the rubble of our old ones. Which brings us back to the wedding invitations. Maria and I sat on our couch, our new couch, the one we picked out together. A spreadsheet was open on her laptop, tracking the RSVPs as they trickled in. Aunt Carol is coming, she cheered, highlighting a name in green. And the Bensons, yes. Oh, this is getting so real. I leaned over and kissed her shoulder. It's perfect. Everything is perfect. For 5 years, I'd had almost no contact with Turk. He'd never apologized. We existed in separate universes, and my parents, after a few failed attempts to force a reconciliation, can't you just be the bigger person for Christmas, had settled into a tense, superficial relationship with me. They talk about the weather, my job, anything, but the wolf tattooed elephant in the room. The phone rang, buzzing on the coffee table. It was my mother. I smiled at Maria and answered, putting it on speaker. Hey, Mom. What's up? Arthur, she said. Her voice was thin, stretched tight like a wire. There was no warmth in it. I was just on the phone with your brother. I felt a cold knot form in my gut. I knew instantly where this was going. He was just wondering. She continued, her voice dripping with forced casualness, if maybe his invitation got lost in the mail. Maria's hand found mine, her fingers lacing through my own. I squeezed back a silent thank you. No, Mom, I said, my voice dangerously calm. It wasn't lost in the mail. He wasn't sent one. The silence on the other end was heavy, judgmental. I could practically hear her rearranging her face into a mask of maternal disappointment. Arthur, don't be childish. This has gone on long enough. 5 years isn't long enough, apparently, I shot back. He's not coming. He's your only brother. Her voice climbed an octave. You can't do this to him. To us. What will people think? I really truly could not care less what people think, I said. Maria squeezed my hand again, harder this time. This is our wedding. Maria's and mine. We're celebrating our life together. The one we built after he tried to burn down the old ones. Inviting him would be a slap in the face to her and to me. Well, she said, her voice turning to ice. Then I guess you have a choice to make. If your brother isn't welcome at your wedding, then your father and I won't be either. The ultimatum. I'd known it was coming, but it still felt like a punch to the gut. The final official confirmation that I was and always would be the disposable son. I looked at Maria. Her eyes were wide but steady. She nodded just once. I took a breath. Okay. My mother squawked. What do you mean times okay asterisk? Okay, you've made your choice, I said, a strange sense of lightness filling my chest. I'll let the caterer know we'll be too short. It was lovely talking to you, Mom. I hung up before she could respond. The silence in the apartment was deafening. I looked at Maria, my partner, my rock, the one other person on earth who knew the exact shape of this wound. Did I just uninvite my own mother from our wedding? I asked, a half-hysterical laugh bubbling up. She wrapped her arms around my neck. No, she said, her voice firm, her lips brushing my ear. She uninvited herself. And I have never been more proud of you. The phone rang again 20 minutes later. Caller ID, Dad. I let it go to voicemail. He didn't leave a message. Instead, a text popped up. Asterisk. Your mother is hysterical. I can't believe you do this to her. You need to call Turk and apologize and fix this right now. We're a family. Asterisk. I deleted it without replying. And then the floodgates opened. My phone started buzzing like a trapped hornet. A number I didn't recognize. I ignored it. It rang again. And again. Then a text message appeared from the same number. Asterisk. Artie, pick up the phone. This is ridiculous. Asterisk. Turk. He hadn't called me Artie since we were kids. It was a cheap, manipulative shot, a ghost of a shared past he had willingly set on fire. I blocked the number. 2 minutes later, another new number started calling. Voicemails started piling up. Asterisk. Seriously. Man. You're going to blow up the whole family over some chick from 5 years ago. Grow up. Asterisk. Asterisk. Mom is crying, you asshole. She's actually crying because of you. You need to fix this. Asterisk. Asterisk. It's not just about me, okay? You just got mom and dad disinvited. How selfish can you be? Just send the damn invitations. Asterisk. He even tried messaging Maria on social media, a platform he hadn't used in years. Asterisk. Maria, can you please talk some sense into him? He's destroying our family. Asterisk. She blocked him without a word and slid her phone next to mine on the coffee table. We watched them both vibrate with the onslaught, 2 frantic black rectangles, poisoning the quiet of our living room. It was insane. After 4 years of absolute unbroken silence, he was acting like I had a moral obligation to answer him. Like his desire to attend a party outweighed the catastrophic damage he'd done. It's not about the wedding, is it? I said, watching my phone screen light up with yet another call. It's about control. They have to be the center of the story. Mom, dad, the golden boy. They can't stand that we're having a happy ending without their approval. Maria nodded, her expression grim. They're not used to you having a spine. Well, I said, picking up my phone and powering it completely off. They'd better get used to it. A few days of blessed silence passed. We thought naively that it was over. Then Maria's friend sent her a screenshot with a caption, Is this about your fiancé's brother? The post was on Reddit, on one of those I the asshole forums. The title was, Am I the bad guy? For accidentally getting my parents uninvited for my brother's wedding. I read it over her shoulder, a hot, sick feeling rising in my throat. It was a masterpiece of revisionist history. In Turk's version, he and Jen had an emotional affair, and one-time mistake that he deeply regretted. He claimed he tried to apologize for years, but I was too bitter to listen. He painted our parents as benevolent peacemakers, just wanting their 2 boys to get along. The wedding invitation was the olive branch he'd been waiting for, and my refusal to send it was a cruel final rejection that punished our poor innocent parents. He wrapped it all up with a tear-jerking line times, I just want my family back. And now I've ruined it for everyone. Asterisk. The comments were a mixed bag. Some people saw through the self-pitying bullshit, but many were siding with him. Asterisk ESH, but your brother needs to get over it. Asterisk YTA, you punished your parents for your brother's mistake. Asterisk. That son of a bitch, I see. He conveniently left out the part where he was sleeping with my girlfriend on my rug and that Maria was his girlfriend who he dumped via text. Maria looked at me, her eyes flashing. So tell them. What? No. I'm not getting into a public pissing match with my brother. Why not? She challenged. He put this out there. He's twisting everything to make you the villain and us the crazy, unforgiving couple. He's doing it because he knows you'll stay quiet. He's counted on it your whole life. Don't let him control the narrative, Arthur. Not this time. She was right. I grabbed my laptop. I found his post and clicked the reply button. I didn't get emotional. I didn't call him names. I just stated the facts calmly and clearly. Asterisk. I'm the brother in this post. Here's the context that was omitted. Asterisk. I laid it all out. Coming home early. The living room rug. The simultaneous brutal breakups. The complete lack of an apology for 5 years. My parents celebrating their new power couple while I was sleeping in a motel. The ultimatum they gave me. The barrage of harassing calls and texts. Asterisk. My brother did not accidentally get our parents' uninvited times, I concluded. Asterisk. He and my parents made a choice. They chose his comfort over my and my fiancé's peace. They chose to protect the person who caused the trauma instead of the people who were victims of it. We are not punishing them. We are simply accepting the boundary they drew. The wedding will be a celebration of love and loyalty. Anyone who doesn't understand those concepts is by definition not welcome. Asterisk. I hit post. The turnaround was immediate and absolute. The moderators added a disputed flair to Turk's post. My comment was flooded with awards and upvotes. NTA. Holy crap, NTA. Asterisk. Your brother and parents are a toxic waste dump. Run and don't look back. Asterisk. Asterisk. Congratulations on the wedding and on your shiny new spine. Asterisk. Asterisk. Send us pics of the wedding. We're all invested now. Asterisk. A stranger on the internet sent me a link to a community about narcissistic families. Reading through the posts was like reading a biography I didn't know I'd written. The golden child. The scapegoat. The flying monkeys. It all clicked into place. Turk deleted his post within an hour. But it was too late. The screenshots were everywhere. The family wasn't just fractured. It was publicly dissected. That night, Maria and I sat on our balcony. Our phones were off. The city lights twinkled below a sea of a million other stories. For the first time in 5 years, the knot in my stomach was gone. It wasn't a victory. It was just quiet. The quiet that comes after a long and necessary storm. Do you regret it? She asked softly, leaning her head on my shoulder. I thought about the angry voicemails, the self-pitying Reddit posts, the years of quiet compromises and swallowed pain. I thought about the creamy, thick invitation sitting on my Aunt Carol's mantle. Then, I looked at Maria, the woman who had helped me rebuild from the wreckage. The only person whose opinion ever truly mattered. No, I said, kissing the top of her head. I don't. I'm finally free. The woman I married wasn't just understanding. She was my biggest advocate. Ava loved that I was a pilot. She traced the flight paths on a globe, packed little notes in my flight bag, and texted me pictures of the dog with captions like, "Your co-pilot is waiting." She got it. The long hauls, the weird hours, the jet lag that felt like a physical weight. For 4 years, she was my perfect ground crew. Then 6 months ago, the signal was lost. It started small, like turbulence you barely notice. It was her birthday. I was supposed to have the whole week off, but a senior captain had a family emergency. They needed someone for a 4-8-hour London run. I tried to say no, I really did, but the pressure was immense. "I promise I will make it up to you," I told Ava, holding her hands. "We'll do your birthday the second I'm back. Bigger and better." She'd pulled her hands away. Her smile was tight, brittle. "It's fine, Wyatt. Work is work." But it wasn't fine. When I got back laden with gifts from Harrods and a reservation at the best restaurant in town, the woman who greeted me was a stranger. A cold, distant stranger who lived in my house and slept in my bed. That weekend was the beginning of the end. I just didn't know it yet. A few weeks later, I was getting ready for a short domestic flight. I just had a fresh haircut and a shave. Ava watched me from the doorway of our bathroom, her arms crossed. "Getting all cleaned up," she said. It wasn't a question. "Yeah, part of the job. Gotta look sharp." I smiled at her reflection in the mirror. "Who for?" I stopped, razor in hand. "What?" "For the passengers. For the airline." "What kind of question is that? You never used to care this much. You just shave and go. Now it's product. You're using product in your hair." I stared at her, dumbfounded. "It's pomade, Ava. I've used it for 10 years. She just shook her head and walked away, leaving the accusation hanging in the air like cheap cologne. From then on, it was a constant barrage. Every flight became a source of suspicion. My first officer, Chloe, became her primary target. Chloe's a brilliant pilot, sharp as a tack in all business. She's also a happily married mother of 2. To me, she was just my colleague. To Ava, she was the enemy. "How was your flight with Times, Chloe?" Times, she'd ask, emphasizing the name like it was a disease. "It was fine. A little choppy over the Rockies, but we landed on time." "Did she wear that perfume again? The one you said you liked?" "I have no idea what perfume she wears, Ava. I'm usually a little busy, flying the plane." The fights always ended the same way. She'd accuse me of being defensive, I'd accuse her of being irrational, and one of us would end up sleeping in the guest room. I was constantly exhausted, not from the flights, but from the emotional gauntlet I had to run every time I came home. I was walking on eggshells around the one person I was supposed to be able to relax with. I missed my wife. I missed the woman who would laugh at my stupid jokes and fall asleep on my chest while we watched movies. This new version of Ava was a ghost haunting our home with paranoia and resentment. I couldn't lose her. I wouldn't. Our 5th anniversary was coming up. This was it. This was my chance to pull us out of this nosedive. I needed a grand gesture, something so undeniable it would shatter this wall of suspicion she'd built between us. The plan was risky, but I was desperate. I booked a surprise 10-day trip to Bali. A private villa, infinity pool, the works. The same place she'd bookmarked on her laptop a year ago, sighing about how we'd go someday. I got the time off approved, bought the tickets, and arranged everything. The hard part, I had to pretend I forgot our anniversary. The week leading up to it was brutal. Every day she dropped hints. "Can you believe it's been almost 5 years?" she'd say, watching my face for any flicker of recognition. I played dumb, grunting about a flight simulator exam or a new route schedule. Each lie felt like swallowing glass, especially when I saw the flicker of hurt in her eyes. But I told myself the payoff would be worth it. It had to be. On the morning of our anniversary, the silence in the house was deafening. I made coffee, and she stared into her mug like it held the secrets to the universe. I knew I had to go for the kill. I put on my uniform. "Where are you going?" she asked, her voice flat. "Got called in. Last minute red-eye to London." "I'm sorry, Aves. I'll be back tomorrow night." I braced for impact. She just laughed. A hollow, bitter sound that didn't reach her eyes. "Of course you do. London. Is Chloe your co-pilot on this trip too?" "I don't know," I lied. "Just go back to sleep. I'll call you when I land." I leaned in to kiss her goodbye. She turned her head, and my lips met her cold cheek. My heart sank. But I had to see this through. "I love you," I whispered. She didn't answer. I walked out the door, my flight bag feeling heavier than ever. But I didn't go to the airport. I drove to a nearby 2-4-hour diner, the tickets to Bali burning a hole in my pocket. I ordered a black coffee and watched the clock on the wall nursing that single cup for hours. Each tick was a lifetime. I imagined her at home, hurt and angry. I felt like the biggest bastard on the planet. But I kept picturing her face when I walked back in at midnight. The anger melting into shock, then joy. It would work. It had to. At 1:15 p.m., I left the diner. I made one last stop to pick up a bottle of our favorite champagne and a bouquet of the stargazer lilies she loved. My hands were shaking as I pulled into our driveway. The house was dark except for a single lamp in the living room, casting a soft, warm glow. Good. She was probably waiting up, reading a book. I crept up the walkway, my heart hammering against my ribs. I slid my key into the lock as quietly as I could, turning it with surgical precision. The door swung open into the silent house. Surprise. I started to say the word, dying in my throat. I dropped the flowers. The champagne bottle slipped from my grasp and hit the hardwood floor with a dull thud, miraculously not breaking. There, in the soft glow of the lamp, was Ava. She was on our living room couch, and she was completely naked. Her back was to me, her head thrown back as if in pleasure. Then I heard a sound. A toilet flushing in the downstairs washroom. The door handle turned. The man who stepped out of the washroom wasn't surprised or angry or even embarrassed. He just looked inconvenienced. He was tall, obscenely handsome in a generic catalog model way, and as naked as she was. He glanced from me to the flowers on the floor to Ava scrambling for the throw blanket on the armchair. "Payments on the kitchen island," he said, his voice flat and professional. He walked over to a neat pile of clothes on a dining chair and started dressing like he was in a gym locker room. My brain finally caught up. Payment. Hired. This wasn't a lover. This was a transaction. I felt a bizarre wave of relief, so quickly followed by a tidal wave of disgust it almost put me on my knees. Ava had the blanket clutched to her chest. Tears were streaming down her face, but her eyes were defiant. "You forgot," she hissed, her voice trembling with a rage that felt rehearsed. "You left me. On our anniversary. What was I supposed to do, Wyatt? Just sit here alone?" I couldn't form a sentence. I held up the Bali tickets in my shaking hand. I didn't even know I was still holding them. They felt like sheets of lead. I dropped them onto the entryway table, next to her purse. The corner of the envelope pointed right at her. The man, now fully dressed, picked up an envelope from the kitchen counter without counting it. He slipped on his shoes and walked to the door, giving me a wide berth, as if I were a down power line. He didn't look at either of us again. The front door clicked shut behind him, leaving a silence that was louder than any screaming match we'd ever had. Ava's practiced anger crumbled. It was a mistake, she sobbed. Just a stupid one-time thing to hurt you because you hurt me. I was going to tell him to leave before. I swear, Wyatt. Nothing happened. I looked from her tear-streaked face to the disheveled couch cushions. I didn't believe her. More importantly, I didn't care. The next 2 weeks were a Cold War fought in a 10-by-10 therapy office, with beige walls and abstract art that looked like a Rorschach test for misery. Ava begged for us to go. I agreed, not because I wanted to save us, but because I needed a witness to the demolition. Dr. Albright was a calm woman in her 50s with kind eyes that didn't miss a thing. For 2 sessions, Ava performed her monologue. The lonely wife, the forgotten anniversary, the one-time desperate cry for attention. She cried on cue. She looked at me with pleading eyes. I just sat there, a block of ice, saying nothing. On the 3rd session, Dr. Albright leaned forward. "Ava," she said gently, "your pain over the anniversary is valid. But Wyatt, you've mentioned this. Disconnect began months ago. Right after your birthday." I nodded once my eyes fixed on Ava. "Ava, can you tell me about that?" the doctor asked. The mask cracked. A flicker of sheer venom crossed her face before being replaced by the familiar tears. "He left me. On my birthday. For work. For times her asterisk." Her Dr. Albright asked. Chloe. Ava spat the name. "His co-pilot. He gets all dressed up for her. He comes home smelling like her perfume. He abandoned me for his little work wife." I finally spoke. My voice was rusty hollow. "Chloe is married. She has 2 kids. I don't even know what perfume she wears." "You're lying," Ava screamed, half rising from the couch. "You've been lying this whole time. I know you have. You pilots are all the same." Dr. Albright held up a hand. "Ava, let's stay on the topic. Your assumption that Wyatt was being unfaithful seems to be the root of this. Is it an assumption, or do you have proof?" Ava laughed, the same hollow, bitter sound from our anniversary morning. It scraped my nerve endings raw. "Proof," she said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "I don't need proof." She finally looked me dead in the eye, and the stranger was back. But this time, she wasn't cold and distant. She was burning. "Fine. You want the truth. You want to know what happened on my birthday." I went out. I got drunk. And I went home with the first man who told me I was beautiful. The air left the room. Dr. Albright's pen froze over her notepad. I just stared. 6 months. It wasn't a one-time act of revenge. It was a pattern. A lifestyle. And it wasn't just him, she continued, the words spilling out like poison. "There have been others. Why not? You think I'm stupid? You think I believe you're spending all those nights in hotels around the world just sleeping? I was just leveling the playing field. I felt nothing. Not rage, not sadness. It was like watching a plane crash from 1,000 miles away. A distant, silent tragedy that had already happened. The woman I married had died 6 months ago, and I was only just now attending the funeral. I stood up. "I'm done. I said, my voice eerily calm. We're done. I walked out of the office, leaving the three of them, Ava, her confession, and the stunned therapist in that sterile beige room. When her parents arrived the next afternoon, they found Ava sitting on the floor surrounded by suitcases weeping. Her mother rushed to her side while her father, a stern man named Robert I'd always respected, fixed me with a glare. I cannot believe you're doing this, Wyatt, her mother, Carol said, stroking Ava's hair. Marriage is hard. The life of a pilot's wife is lonely. You can't just throw it away. This is on you, Robert added, his voice low and accusatory. A man is supposed to provide, yes, but he's also supposed to be present. If you can't handle the job and the marriage, you get a new job. I stood there and took it. I let them say their piece, let them paint me as the villain, the absent husband who broke their little girl's heart. When they were finally out of breath, I looked at Robert. She cheated on me, I said. Carol scoffed. Oh, please. Ava told us about your anniversary. She made a foolish mistake because she was heartbroken. No, I cut her off, my voice like steel. Not one mistake. It started 6 months ago on her birthday. She confessed it all in front of our marriage counselor yesterday. There have been multiple men, Carol. She justified it because she assumed I was cheating on her during my layovers. The righteous anger drained from their faces, replaced by slack-jawed horror. They both turned to look at their daughter, who was now sobbing into her hands for a completely different reason. She wasn't heartbroken. She was caught. Robert's face hardened into a mask of pure disgust. He looked at his daughter on the floor as if she were a stranger. Get up, Ava, he said. The command was quiet, but it cracked like a whip in the silent room. Get your things in the car. Carol just stood there speechless, her hand hovering over her daughter's shoulder before pulling it back. She wouldn't even touch her. I watched them herd her out the door like a disgraced child. I didn't help with the bags. I didn't say goodbye. The door closed and the house was finally truly quiet. I walked into the kitchen and saw the Bali tickets still sitting on the entryway table. I picked them up, walked them to the shredder, and fed them into the machine. I watched the dream of a private villa and an infinity pool turn into thin strips of meaningless paper. The only revenge I needed was a life she couldn't be a part of. The next morning, I called my lawyer. A year ago, this house was a life raft. I'd lost my job and my apartment in the same catastrophic week, and when my brother Mark offered me his spare room, I cried with relief. Anything you need, I told him, my voice thick. I'm so grateful. They're still cashing that check. The gratitude curdled slowly, then all at once. It started with small things. Hey Grace, can you grab groceries? I'll get you back. Sarah, my sister-in-law, would say, not looking up from her phone. Mark would echo it. We're a little tight this month. Can you spot the internet bill? A little tight became their permanent state of being. I got a new job, a good one, and started paying rent. Then my rent somehow began to cover their half of the mortgage. Then the utilities. Last month, I sat down with a calculator and a pile of receipts. My blood ran cold. I am paying for 2/3 of this household. 2/3 of everything while living in a 10x12 box at the end of the hall. The money is infuriating. The rest is soul-crushing. Sarah doesn't work. She doesn't cook. She doesn't clean. Her primary activity is generating a gravitational pull on the sofa cushions. She has a son, Ben, from a previous marriage who she lost custody of. She talks about him like he's a character in a book she read once. No calls, no visits. Just a framed school picture on the mantelpiece gathering dust until I wipe it down. Her current child, my 7-year-old niece Lily, gets slightly better treatment. She gets acknowledged. Mostly. "Annie Grace, I'm hungry," Lily whispered to me last night, tugging on my sleeve the second I walked in from my 9-hour workday. I looked past her. Sarah was on the sofa scrolling through Instagram, a half-eaten bag of chips on her chest. The sink was overflowing with dishes from the day before. "What did your mom make for dinner?" I asked, keeping my voice even. Lily's face fell. "She said to wait for you." I felt a familiar hot spike of rage. I looked at Sarah, who didn't even have the decency to pretend she couldn't hear us. I cooked chicken nuggets and mac and cheese, helped Lily with her spelling words, gave her a bath, and read her 2 chapters of her book before tucking her into bed. Sarah didn't move from the couch once. Mark came home just as I was finishing the mountain of dishes kissed. Sarah on the head, grabbed a beer, and asked me tough day at work. I tried talking to him about it 2 weeks ago. I cornered him in the garage while he was pretending to organize his tools. "Mark, this isn't working." I started, my heart pounding. I'm paying almost all the bills. I'm taking care of Lily every single night. I can't keep doing this. He wouldn't meet my eyes. He just kept rearranging a set of wrenches. "Look, Grace, we're a team. Family helps family. You know Sarah's going through a lot." "What is she going through?" I snapped. "The new season of that reality show she likes, She Does Nothing, Mark. And you let her." That's when he turned on me. His face hardened. "We were there for you when you were on your ass. Don't forget that. We took you in. This is what you do in return. You help out. It's not that complicated. The gratitude. That goddamn check." He slapped it on the table every single time, the ultimate trump card. My obligation. My penance for having had a single awful year. The last few days, something has been different. There's a weird energy in the house, a secret fizzing between Mark and Sarah. They've been whispering in corners, sharing smirks over the dinner I cooked. It felt like a storm was gathering just over the horizon. I've been bracing myself, assuming they were about to ask for more money. Maybe for a vacation they couldn't afford, or for Sarah's car payment that was 3 months overdue. I was already polishing my no, getting it ready. Tonight the storm broke. I made spaghetti. Lily was chattering about a girl in her class who could do a cartwheel. I was half listening, mostly just trying to summon the energy to face the post-dinner cleanup. Mark cleared his throat. A loud performative sound. He reached across the table and took Sarah's hand. She was beaming, a sly, triumphant look in her eye that was aimed directly at me. So Mark began, his voice booming with forced cheer. "We've got some incredible news." I put my fork down, a knot of dread tightening in my stomach. This was it. The big ask. "What is it?" He looked like a kid on Christmas morning, absolutely bursting. "I have an appointment booked for next month," he said, his smile stretching ear to ear. "I'm getting my vasectomy reversed. We're going to have another baby." The silence in the room was so absolute I could hear the hum of the refrigerator. Lily, sensing the sudden deep freeze, looked between the adults, her small face pinched with confusion. I stared at my brother, at the fatuous, idiotic grin plastered on his face, and a laugh escaped me. It wasn't a happy sound. It was sharp and brittle, like glass breaking. "You're joking," I said. It wasn't a question. Sarah's triumphant smile faltered. "Why would we joke about something so wonderful?" "Because you're broke," I snapped, my voice dropping to a low, dangerous pitch. Because you can't afford the child you already have. Because I pay for her food, her clothes, her goddamn field trips. Where exactly is the money for a baby coming from Mark? Mark's grin vanished, replaced by that familiar defensive scowl. That's not your concern. We'll figure it out. You'll figure it out. I echoed, the volume of my voice rising. Like you figured out the mortgage this month, or the electric bill. Or, do you mean times all times figure it out? Grace, stop, he warned. But I couldn't stop. It was like a dam had burst. A year of swallowed anger and resentment came rushing out. And what about you, Sarah, planning on getting a job to support this new baby? Or are you just going to gestate on that couch for 9 months and expect a magical nanny to appear? I saw a flash of real venom in her eyes. I will be a mother. You already times are times a mother, I shot back, gesturing vaguely towards the mantelpiece. How's Ben, by the way? Heard from him lately? Or did you lose his number? Along with your parental rights. That was a low blow, and I knew it. Sarah flinched as if I'd slapped her. Mark shot to his feet, his chair scraping violently against the linoleum. That's enough. Apologize to your sister. She is not my sister, I said, my voice ice. And I'm not done. Forget the money for a second. Let's talk about the actual work. A baby needs to be fed, changed, watched. All day. Every day. Who is going to do that? When you can't even be bothered to make your own daughter a sandwich. Sarah looked at me, then her expression, a bizarre mix of condescension and genuine confusion. As if I were the one being unreasonable. Well, she said, slowly drawing out the word. I'll have them during the day, obviously. But I thought you could handle them when you get off work. You know you take Lily anyway. It's just one more. Then the load is evenly distributed. The air left my lungs. There it was. The quiet part said out loud. Not just a suspicion anymore, but their actual concrete plan. I would be the full-time nanny, the after-hours parent, the financier of this entire delusional enterprise. I stood up, my own chair falling backward with a crash that made Lily jump. No, I said the word, a blade. What do you mean no? Mark asked, bewildered. I mean no. I will not. I will not raise another one of your children for you. My gaze locked on Sarah. You want to bring another kid into this mess? Fine. But I'm out. The second you go through with this, the money stops. The childcare stops. Everything stops. I will pack my bags and I will be gone. And on my way out, I will call mom and dad and every single aunt, uncle, and cousin, and I will tell them exactly times why I'm leaving. I will tell them how you use me as an ATM and a maid. I will tell them about Ben. I will burn your reputation with this family to the goddamn ground. Sarah's face crumpled. It was an astonishingly fast transformation from smug matriarch to be to sputtering victim. Tears welled in her eyes. You're a monster, she sobbed, burying her face in her hands. You're trying to ruin our happiness. Get out. Mark snarled, his face purple with rage. He pointed a trembling finger at the door. Get out of my house. Now. I laughed again, that same ugly, broken sound. You can't. I said, the truth of it landing with the force of a physical blow. You can't afford it, Mark. You kick me out, you lose 2/3 of your income. The bank takes this house in 3 months tops. You can't get rid of me. You need me. I watched the realization dawn on his face, the rage curdling into a horrified, impotent understanding. He knew I was right. I owned them. I turned and walked away from the table, from Sarah's performative sobs and Mark's slack-jawed fury. I walked into my tiny room and shut the door, my entire body shaking. I pulled out my phone. My mother picked up on the second ring. "Hi, honey, what's up?" I told her everything. The money, the chores, taking care of Lily, and the grand finale, the vasectomy reversal, and their plan for me to raise the baby. There was a long, stunned silence on the other end of the line. "He's getting his times, what times reversed?" She finally asked, her voice tight. "And she said you'd handle it, oh Grace. That shameless, lazy girl. I am so sorry. I'm calling your brother right now." There was a fierce, protective anger in her voice that almost made me cry with relief. Someone was on my side. "Thanks, Mom," I whispered. "Don't thank me. Family doesn't do that to family." 10 minutes later, my father called. I knew from the tone of his grace that this would be different. "Your mother just told me what you said to your brother." He began, his voice heavy with disappointment. "You've caused a huge mess." I told them the truth. "Dad? It's his life. It's his marriage," he boomed, his voice rising. "If they want another baby, that is their business, not yours. You don't get to threaten your own brother. You don't get to interfere and hold money over his head. You're tearing this family apart over something that is none of your concern. None of my concern. They explicitly told me they expect me to raise it. You're living under his roof," he said, as if that explained everything. "You help out, you don't make demands. You should have just kept your mouth shut and figured it out later." I felt a cold wave of despair wash over me. He didn't get it. He didn't want to get it. To him, I was the problem. The boat rocker. "Goodbye, Dad," I said, and hung up before he could reply. I sat on the edge of my bed in the suffocating silence of the house. I had won. I called their bluff and laid all the cards on the table. They were trapped, and so was I. The battle was over. But the air outside my door was thick with a new kind of war, a cold one fought in a house where no one could afford for me to leave, and I could no longer afford to stay. I looked at my closet, at the suitcase on the top shelf. The check for my gratitude had finally bounced. 5 years. That's a long time. It's long enough to build a life, to merge your friends, to know someone's coffee order by heart. For me and Claire, it was long enough to survive the break. A year ago, we hit a rough patch. We took a month apart to figure things out. I figured out I was miserable without her. She figured things out with Mark, a senior designer at her firm. She swore it was nothing, just a mistake born from confusion. A trauma bond over a stressful project, she'd called it. I believed her. Or I wanted to. We got back together, and for a year things were good. Almost perfect. But the name Mark always hung in the air, a ghost at our dinner table. "Hey babe," I said, walking in from the gym. "You still on for dinner tonight?" I was thinking that new Italian place. Claire was on the couch, laptop open, brow furrowed. She didn't look up. "Oh hey. About that, I can't. I'm so sorry." My stomach dropped just a little. "Everything okay?" "Yeah, it's just work is insane. They just moved a deadline up on the Henderson project. I'm going to be chained to this desk all night. She finally looked at me, her face a mask of practiced exhaustion. We'll do it this weekend, I promise. Okay, I said, trying to keep the disappointment out of my voice. Need me to bring you anything? No, I'm good. I'll just order something in. Love you. Love you too. I spent the next 2 hours reheating leftover chili and scrolling aimlessly through my phone. It felt pathetic. A Friday night alone, picturing her drowning in architectural blueprints. Then I saw it. A post from Sarah, one of her work friends. A group photo, a big celebratory lunch. The caption read, "Finally celebrating the Henderson project wrap-up. So proud of this team." And there in the back of the shot, tucked into a corner booth, was Claire. She was laughing, her head tilted just so. Sitting across from her, leaning in so close their shoulders were almost touching, was Mark. My chili turned to ash in my mouth. It wasn't a meeting. It wasn't a last-minute deadline. It was a celebration. A victory lap. A lunch she lied about to have with him. My thumb hovered over her contact photo. Call her. Scream. Demand an explanation. But what was the point? She'd just spin another story. I'd seen it before. The denial, the deflections, the way she could twist words until I was the one apologizing for being suspicious. Not this time. I needed proof she couldn't talk her way out of. The restaurant in the photo was Café Monet, a trendy little spot downtown. I checked their Instagram page. Nothing. I checked the page of everyone tagged in Sarah's photo. And then I found it. Another picture posted by some junior designer I didn't know. It was a candid shot, a close-up. It was just the two of them. Claire and Mark. They were sharing a tiramisu, a single spoon halfway to her lips. His hand was resting on the table just inches from hers. The look on his face wasn't friendly. It wasn't professional. It was the same look he'd probably given her a year ago during the break. The look of a man who knew he was winning. My blood ran cold. The air in my apartment felt thick. Unbreathable. 5 years. All the promises, all the I love yous, all the plans we'd made. How much of it was real? The insecurity that had been a quiet hum in the back of my mind for a year was now a screaming siren. I grabbed my keys. My hands were shaking so hard. It took me 2 tries to get the key in the ignition. I didn't have a plan. I just knew I had to see her face when she saw the picture. I had to watch the lies fall apart in real time. The 20-minute drive to her apartment felt like an eternity and a split second all at once. Every red light was a personal insult. Every slow driver a test of my sanity. I replayed the last year in my head. Every time she'd worked late. Every time she'd been vague about her plans. Every time she'd said, "Mark is just a friend, you have to trust me." Trust. The word tasted like poison. I pulled up across the street from her building. Her lights were on. I pictured her on the couch, maybe texting him, telling him what a great time she had. Telling him how she'd expertly handled me. The thought made me want to punch the steering wheel. I took a deep breath, the air rattling in my lungs. I unlocked my phone, the picture of her and Mark glowing on the screen. It was my only weapon, my only piece of undeniable truth. I put the car in park but left the engine running. This was it. There was no coming back from this. I was about to set fire to 5 years of my life. And God help me, I couldn't wait to watch it burn. I killed the engine. The silence was deafening. My own ragged breathing filled the car as I walked to her door, phone clutched in my hand like a rock. I didn't knock. I used my key. She was on the couch just as I'd pictured, phone glowing in her lap. She jumped when the door opened. Hudson, God, you scared me. I told you I was working. I didn't say a word. I just walked over, held my phone out, and tilted the screen toward her. The picture of her and Mark sharing that deserted universe of intimacy between them. Her eyes flicked from the screen to my face. The mask of practiced exhaustion slipped, replaced by a flicker of pure panic. Oh. That. It was a team thing. Just a celebration for the Henderson project. This isn't the team, Claire. My voice was flat dead. This is you and him. After you lied to me. I didn't lie. She snapped, her voice rising. Plans changed. It was a last-minute thing. You're making a big deal out of nothing. You're being paranoid. Paranoid. The word came out as a hollow laugh. I looked around the apartment we had practically shared for 5 years. Her things, my things, our things. It all felt like a movie set. So you canceling on me and having lunch with the man you cheated on me with is just a coincidence. It wasn't like that. You're twisting this to fit your narrative because you've never trusted me since the break. She was actually shouting now, trying to flip it, make it my fault, my insecurity, my paranoia. It was her signature move. But the picture on my phone was an anchor holding me to reality. I wouldn't be gaslit again. I just stared at her, letting her words hang in the air and rot. I watched her face crumble when she realized it wasn't working. I'm done, I said. It was the quietest thing I'd said all night, but it landed like a bomb. I turned and walked out, leaving my key on the little table by the door. I didn't slam it. I closed it softly behind me, the final click echoing like a gunshot. The next morning, I woke up to a world of digital silence. Her contact photo on my phone was a gray anonymous silhouette. My last text, a single blue check mark. Delivered but not read. I went to Instagram. User not found. Facebook the same. Blocked. Wiped clean from her digital life as if the last 5 years were a corrupted file. A cold, sick dread pooled in my stomach. I grabbed my laptop and logged into an old, forgotten gaming account on Facebook. I searched her name. Her profile popped right up, public and proud. And there it was, posted 2 hours ago. A new profile picture of her. And Mark smiling. And right below it, the relationship status she'd always refused to use with me. In a relationship with Mark Peterson. I dry heaved into the toilet. The betrayal was so absolute, so ruthlessly efficient, it felt like a physical assault. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I just sat in the dark, scrolling through years of our photos, trying to pinpoint the exact moment I became a fool. After a week of this self-inflicted torture, I typed a desperate, pathetic plea into a Reddit relationship forum. The advice was swift and unanimous. Go scorched earth. No contact. It's the only way. It felt impossible, like amputating a limb. But they were right. I spent the next hour blocking her. Then I blocked Mark. Then Sarah. Then her sister. Her mom, her cousins, her 20 closest friends. Digital massacre. My friend Dave, bless his heart, went over to her place with 2 garbage bags of her stuff and came back with a box of mine. He didn't say a word, just put a beer in my hand. 2 days later, a message request. popped up on Instagram from a blank profile. No picture, zero posts. It was her. This is the cruelest, ugliest way you could have possibly handled this. You have no idea the damage you're doing. I screenshotted it, sent it to Dave with the caption, LOL, and then blocked the account without a reply. It was the hardest and best thing I'd ever done. Months passed. The silence worked its magic. The gaping wound in my chest slowly began to scar over. I started working out again. I saw my friends. I started to feel like myself. Then my dad got sick. It was fast. A sudden, brutal cancer that took him from us in 6 weeks. The world stopped. The grief was a fog, thick and choking. In the middle of funeral arrangements and sitting with my weeping mother, my phone buzzed. It was a text from my sister. It was a screenshot. A message from Claire to my mom. Dearest Carol, I was so devastated to hear about Richard. He was such a wonderful man. I know you must be going through hell. I'd love to come to the service to pay my respects and offer my support. Mark would be happy to come with me if that's okay. We just want to be there for you. The audacity. The sheer predatory nerve of it. Using my father's death, my mother's grief, as a crowbar to pry her way back into my life. With him. For support. Rage cold and pure cut through my grief. This wasn't a showdown. This was a pest control problem. I called an emergency family meeting with my mom and sister. She is not to be acknowledged. I said, my voice shaking with a control I didn't feel. If she messages you again, you don't reply. If you see her at the funeral home, you look right through her. She doesn't exist. They agreed instantly, their own shock and disgust overriding their grief for a moment. I then texted my 5 closest friends, the ones serving as pallbearers. I sent them the screenshot and a simple instruction. If you see this woman or her boyfriend, you are my personal security. They are not to get within 50 feet of me or my family. No scenes. Just a wall. She never showed. Maybe someone warned her. Maybe she lost her nerve. The thought of her being silently, politely, but firmly turned away by my friends at my father's funeral was a small, grim comfort. A few weeks later, Dave sent me a YouTube link. The title was something like, Girlfriend cheats, lies, then tries to crash ex's dad's funeral. It was one of those Reddit story narration channels. Someone had taken my post and turned it into a video. It had 2,000,000 views. Apparently, one of her distant cousins saw it, recognized the story, and shared it in the extended family group chat. From there, it went nuclear. My phone lit up with messages from numbers I didn't recognize, her friends. You're a monster for airing her dirty laundry like that. She made a mistake, you didn't have to ruin her reputation. This smear campaign is pathetic. I read them, a strange sense of calm washing over me. They were just words from a world I no longer lived in. I blocked them all. A year to the day after I walked out of her apartment, an email landed in my inbox. The subject line was just my name. It was a novel. A long, rambling, self-serving apology. She wrote about her fear of commitment, how our love was so real it scared her. She wrote about how Mark was pressuring her to move and how he didn't really get her. How he wasn't as smart or as funny as I was. It was a masterclass in non-apology, blaming everything but herself. A year ago, I would have sold my soul to receive that email. I would have read it and wept the validation as soothing balm on my shattered ego. But I wasn't that person anymore. I was sitting on a couch beside a woman named Anna, her head resting on my shoulder as we watched some stupid movie. She was kind and honest, and she made me laugh. She knew my story. She'd held my hand through the grief of losing my dad. She was real. I read Claire's pathetic, desperate words, felt the ghost of a pain I used to know, and then I felt nothing. A complete and total indifference. It was like reading a weather report from a city I'd never visit again. I hit delete. The email vanished. Anna looked up at me. "Everything okay?" I smiled, leaned over and kissed her. "Everything's perfect.